Good morning, everyone. I'm laughing because we did a countdown and Pat gave me the flying bird as a number one. So
I have no
it's
idea what he's talking about. There is no evidence of this.
um I clicked record as you were giving me the bird, and then I laughed.
The bird is the
S-
word, man.
The bird is the word. It is December 15th. 10 days and Santa will be coming down your chimneys.
Step into Christmas, step
I don't have a
into
chimney. No, I don't have
Christmas.
a chimney. I actually do have a chimney in my house.
Break through the windows. He'll just sneak in, unlock your door with his little breaking tools and then lock it when he leaves. That's all. That's what happens when you don't have a chimney.
So,
It's
Pat, you had
a-okay.
mentioned last was it 2 weeks ago you went and see Red One to Rock?
Oh, yeah. Speaking of Santa.
Now, it was 3 weeks ago now.
Yeah,
Oh, time
it's
flies.
it's already out on Prime. that's
Well,
that's how quick it was out
Oh,
of
is
the
it
movie
is it on
theaters.
is it out on
well,
Prime now? Like right
Yeah,
now? Oh
well,
shit. I heard it was
to,
coming out early, but I didn't think it was that soon.
to
yeah, it
Holy
be
went
shit.
fair,
quick.
to be fair,
That's
that's what it
hilarious.
was always meant to do anyway. It was originally only going to be released on Prime, and then probably because of the exorbitant cost, they decided to give it a theatrical release. It
Oh,
finished fifth at the box office last week, making 7 million in its fourth week out, bringing its domestic total to just under 86 million. If it's true that it cost 250 million without advertising costs,
He wants to do a balancing act. Oh, he's got one of those things. I've seen those before. I was actually woke up yesterday morning and
I was hoping he was going to spin it.
there was a science show on, and they had a bird like that doing balancing stuff and gravity, and I actually watched it. I was like, it's been some time since I've seen a show like this. This is interesting. I feel like a kid again.
Um, and the most recent daily numbers they have on Box Office Mojo are from Friday, which after it made 1.2 million in sixth place on Friday,
Mhm.
it was up to $89 million. So again, what I was trying to say is with its reported production cost, which again does not include advertising costs,
hmm.
you're pretty much putting this into huge box office bomb territory.
So, Pat, while you were sitting there watching this movie, and as your balls were jingling, did it give you a white Christmas?
You're nasty.
So I also want to
Let's
just
start.
take this time to point out that our dear friend Joe has taken to in our group text, which also
What?
involves our friend AJ, sending us dad jokes randomly.
Dad
And
jokes,
the last
dirty
few
jokes,
of the
whatever.
last few of these dad jokes have definitely crossed over into what I am understanding dad jokes to be. Um, and have
More
definitely
like
crossed
Andrew Dice
more.
Clay jokes.
Yes, I've definitely crossed more into the line of dirty jokes. So,
They're fun, dirty jokes.
so I
Oh,
don't I don't know, except I do know that every time I get one of those jokes, I can just go, I'm finding this highly disturbing.
That's the
oh.
problem.
Listen, we were even 10 minutes into this recording, and I had to throw one
Naughty,
out there.
naughty.
Yeah, I'm going to be on the naughty list. It's okay, though. I
Yes.
enjoy being on the naughty list. It's all
Oh
right.
God.
Okay, I'll stop now. I'll
Good
stop.
Lord.
Let me digress. Let me get back to normalcy here. Okay, okay.
I'm gonna do this some other time.
Oh, yes, yes. Anywho, yes, it's the Christmas spirit. And just to let everybody know, this will be our last recording for the month of December. and the year of 2024, because 2025 is upon us. I don't even know if to say hallelujah or let me pray. And I'm not even that religious. So we will be back recording around the second week of January. So look forward to the subscribe buttons for new content coming out and our clips. We appreciate it again because our clips and our numbers are been on the rise since we changed how we go about posting things on YouTube and whatnot. So we appreciate everybody clicking those views and watching the stupid silliness that we do on a monthly basis. Yes, on a monthly basis. So once again, we appreciate that and whatnot. So it's good for the fans, good for us. Someone's watching us, so that's a good thing.
I don't know why.
People are downloading our podcasts on Spotify, Podbean, Apple Music, iHeartRadio. I forget which other ones we're on. Yeah, people are doing the downloads, so that's cool. You know, someone has a taste for our content, which is nothing here, there, beyond, up and down, hell to heaven to outer space and the 15th galaxy, you know.
I mean, I like that people are listening to us no matter what, format, what medium, what provider they listen to it through. But can I just say,
Oh no,
No, you can't just say.
I'm
I
afraid
do
now.
not I do not heart iHeartRadio.
Oh, okay.
You know what?
He does
I
not
don't heart
iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio.
Oh, we're on there.
I know, but I'm just saying I don't heart them.
It's okay if you don't heart them.
And they know what they did.
Oh boy. Here we go. Here we go.
Well, it was kind of like this past week at trivia. Me, my older sister and brother-in-law, we actually went to two different places for trivia on two different nights. And at one of them, I do not remember which now, because this shit obviously just blurs together because who has time to remember this stuff? There was a question about the band that filed I don't remember what they said the charges were, but filed the lawsuit against Napster.
Oh God, that's what I thought you were gonna say. It's like, wow, that's been a long time too.
Yeah, no, well, it was. It's been over 20 years now.
Oof.
I remember seeing the first story. I was working at my mother's company as like an intern. I think it was over the summer
Wasn't it one of
that
the
year.
rock bands like Metallica
Well,
or
that's what it
something?
was. It was Metallica was the
Was it
answer we were
Metallica?
looking for.
Okay.
And after I was like writing down the answer, because for whatever reason, because my sister and brother-in-law barely got there in time, I was the one that was like writing on most of the answers this week. Usually my sister does.
You were writing the answers.
I just kind of looked up and I said, is it a coincidence that arguably Metallica's worst album was the first album they released after all the Napster shit? That being the Saint Anger album, which came out in 2003, which I just remember every single person. I have one Metallica album, the Black Album, the one with Enter Sandman and Nothing Else Matters.
Pretty much their best one.
I've never been a huge fan of them because to me, most of their music sounds the same, a la AC/DC, but to me, AC/DC's always had a better sense of melody. Metallica's just metal. But anyway, because every single person I ever talked to,
They were never the same since they got rid of Dave Mustaine.
but every single person I talked to, I remember one of my managers at Circuit City who was in a rock band at the time. Yes, I was working at Circuit City then. I remember he even came right up and he said, do you follow Metallica? I said, no, not really. I said, I've kind of had a bone to pick with them since the Napster shit. He goes, oh, well, if you were ever even thinking about buying their new album, don't. It sucks.
Wow, really?
And like everybody I ever like talked to then who like knew anything and like said, oh yeah, that album's terrible. So I just found it funny that I think a lot of people were bitter at them for the Napster stuff. And I understood why. And of course I understood their position too.
Yeah, yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
especially as you got older and you learn more about how this shit actually works and everything.
Listen, Napster,
But I just
BearShare,
found it
I
interesting that probably the time they could have really used a lot of goodwill and needed like a really good album, they released a horrible album. So
yeah. No, I man, those are the days. BearShare, Napster. What was the other one? There was another one too.
Audio
And
Galaxy was one I used a lot. Audio Galaxy I liked because I found a lot of shit that nobody on Napster had. Um,
yeah, BearShare. That's why I went on Bear. I started using BearShare because they had stuff that Napster didn't have, and
yeah,
not just music, but there was a lot of other content you can get on there. I'm not going to go into that, but you can get like movies and um posters, pictures, and there was like a lot of content, a
yeah,
lot of content,
yeah,
video wise.
yeah.
But it
Those then
was,
there were ones that you could get video from, and
yeah.
um, I think iMesh might have been one.
So one of the things
I
I
don't know
did,
that one.
one of the
Yeah.
things I did,
I'm trying. I'm not. I may not be sure. I'm trying to remember 20 years ago.
one of the things I liked about BearShare was the fact that I can get like Japanese anime. They had a lot of Japanese anime on there. So I'm like watching like Japanese anime from like the 70s and the 80s and some shows I've heard of, but was never able to watch because it never came over to the
I'm gonna
Western
say the
Hemisphere.
animation on those was probably pretty terrible.
Um, you know, I mean, 70s and 80s cartoons, like, theirs was still a little bit better than ours, even though the way they were able to create the cartoons and the animation, still a little bit better than our stuff still. But no, it was some cool stuff I watched, even though it was in Japanese, and some of the videos did have subtitles, so it was, able to keep, follow that as well. But no, that was one of the biggest reasons why I went there because my friend was like, "Hey man, BearShare has Japanese anime on there." And I was like, "Oh shit!" So we were going on there just downloading stuff. I remember I used to have a old. I still have it. It's in storage. I don't have the power cable, but they had the old iOmega, like the bigger versions of the floppy drive, but they were hard disks and they held like a lot more, and you had to buy it was like a USB cable you plugged into your computer. Was an iOmega hard drive. You can store a lot of music on there and stuff and videos. I have like 8 disks full of shit. I don't even know what's on there because I can't even find a power cord for it because of how weird the power cord is.
And
Nice.
and think now we can store endless gigs of music on something that's this big.
Yeah, I know. Yep, 100%
And then of course,
crazy.
as like Napster and the sites that were around at the same time were getting like shut down or were like switching to like, pay models and everything. Then of course there was LimeWire.
I love
Oh, that was
LimeWire.
the other one. LimeWire. That's the one I couldn't think of.
There
I'm like,
Yes.
I downloaded a few things from LimeWire. Um,
LimeWire.
I remember um so the Rolling Stones put out like a compilation box set in like the early 2000s that had four new tracks that you couldn't get anywhere else. And I didn't really enjoy paying for songs that I already owned on like two or three other compilations at that point. So I went looking for those songs to download and found them on LimeWire. And funny thing is I do now own that box set. I bought it a few years ago. Mainly because one of the four tracks that I found when I downloaded it, I was always listening to it on my computer, so I never thought anything of it. But about 30 seconds into the song, you hear the sound from like AIM, AOL Instant Messenger, when someone
Oh.
signs on of like the door opening. Because I was always listening to it on my computer, I always assumed it was coming from my computer. But like the first time I had it and like I listened to it like in my car and I heard the sound, I went, "What the fuck?" And then I realized it was the goddamn track, and then I was like, "Yeah."
yeah, no, it's funny
So
because I
obviously
definitely
you can't trust anything you get from this. And then of course, LimeWire was very notorious for being loaded with shit that was unfriendly to your computer. As I think
Yeah.
you remember a friend of ours who shall remain nameless, um, had issues with his computer because he had downloaded like so much shit from LimeWire that I think his
Yeah.
computer was infected by like it was like that Strong Bad cartoon where he's like he does like a virus scan on his computer and it has like 30 million viruses and it says like like computer over virus very yes.
The greatest thing from BearShare and all that stuff is I had probably over 60. This is I had a well, I had friends who had tons of these, but I personally created probably like 60 to 80 like burned CDs with all types of music on there. And that was the greatest thing ever. Having the big binder with all the CDs in them. I had all these burned CDs flipping out, throwing CDs in. Those were the days, man.
Yeah.
That was
These kids don't know what making a mixtape is anymore.
they don't know nothing. I used to make
Making
mixed
him
cassette
yeah.
tapes and some CDs, man. They don't know
Dude, when,
shit.
when I first heard about how you could, burn CDs, that was like,
Greatest fucking time ever.
I can make mixed CDs,
Dude, I remember going to Seaside Heights and all the way, like if you walk onto the boardwalk and you're looking at the ocean, if you make a right and go all the way down to the end, there was a guy that used to sell burned CDs from like Hot 97 in New York and Hot 95 and all that stuff and all kinds of reggae and rap and hip hop and blues and pop music and rock music. He was selling that stuff like for like 15, $20 a pop for these CDs. I'm like, damn, this is what I should be doing. Like,
I remember the first CD burner I bought. It was a Max 4X.
Yes.
yes.
It took 20 minutes to burn an 80-minute CD.
Yes. Those were the days. That was so fun.
But that was so freaking revolutionary, man. And now it's like you want to make a playlist. Oh, you just go into iTunes or whatever I'm even behind the times there now. Like you go into Spotify or whatever the streaming service, and you just go click, 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 click.
Create your own list and add your own songs.
But
way
you
it
don't
is
own
now-
any of that shit. So
The way it is now, it kind of like it drives me nuts. Only in the fact that people like with football teams and wrestling and everything else, they're like, oh, you use Amazon Music. Oh, that is so bad. It's so terrible. I use Spotify. Like people are like
Oh, God, I
anti-certain.
know.
I'm like, it's the same thing. Like, oh, Spotify could do this. Yeah, I can do that with Amazon Music too. Like, relax, bud.
Yeah.
yeah, it's
100%.
the tribalism is
Whichever platform you
It's
prefer,
stupid.
great. One's not really way better than the other.
yeah, it's the dumbest thing to be tribal over though too. It's like,
It is.
dude, it's supporting one corporation over another. Who fucking cares?
And they're all going, ha ha ha, money, 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 money,
I know.
money.
Right.
We got
It's
you, money.
it's the equivalent of saying, "Oh, you drink Coke, I drink Pepsi."
Or it's like you get gas at Wawa, I get gas at Shell. It's better.
Or
And what they
to-
don't know
to
is
be
they
even
all
better-
use the
to be
same
even-
freaking oil companies.
to be even more on point there, yeah, it's like, "Oh, you go to Wawa? Well, I go to Sheets."
Fuck Sheets. Okay, never mind. Let's move on.
It depends on what you're going to Sheets for. If you want some fried foods, you got to go to Sheets. You can't go to Wawa. Wawa doesn't have fried foods.
No, okay. So like when I moved down here, it did suck that I, don't have Wawas. We do have them now in North Carolina, but the closest one is 50 minutes away. So
Oh, that's not close
do
enough.
you want to know the craziest part where listen, there's two Wawas they built, two towns that are very close to each other. It's like, here's an example of what they did. So they have one Wawa that's kind of like off the highway where you can get on 95. So I get that. 95, totally understand. If you go west like a couple miles, there's another one. It's like putting a Wawa at the borderline of fucking Bethlehem and Easton, and they're like a quarter a mile away. Where boom, we're putting two Wawas. That's what they did in like this
I think they
area.
actually have that.
Yeah, I mean they do technically, but it's the equivalent. It's like you put it out in this rural area, but you have this whole fucking city area, and you don't bring it further into the Raleigh section where you'll make a shit ton more money. But that's okay. It's just, I digress.
I mean,
I'm
I
just
was
a
gonna say
little-
The one thing
Where
I
I
will say
live,
is,
there's one Wawa 3 miles one way. There's another Wawa 3 miles the other way, and
Uh-huh.
they've still been having debates about putting a Wawa in between.
yeah,
So,
there's
Oh, don't they want to put one across the street for the CVS right there down the road from you? And that open lands?
that was one place where they proposed to do so, but it sounds like that's been kiboshed. The place where they're still talking about possibly putting one is near Blue on William Penn Highway,
Fuck
and
are they
I'm
gonna
like,
put
oh
it
my
there?
God, horrible idea. I'm like,
The one on the other road's way better than the
oh
one
yeah,
on William
it
Penn.
would be much more easily accessible and everything like that. But I guess the people who live there are being a little bit more forceful with their NIMBY shit. Uh, not in my backyard, in case you don't know what
mhm.
NIMBY means, than people up on William Penn are. Ultimately, I would hope that it just doesn't happen. Either build it near that CVS over here in Freemansburg. I
Yeah.
could walk to that Wawa if I wanted to, or just don't bother because you're not gonna. It's
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
take you like
William Penn's
Wawa's
horrible.
the
That's
one thing I will
horrible.
say about Wawa is they're very strategic. Like they do a lot of research before they just build a
Yeah.
Wawa.
well, right, which
No,
is,
they
and
do.
I
They
think,
do.
their preference was to build on Freemansburg. It's just that they're not getting the go ahead, so they're going to be like, oh, well, we'll just build here if they'll let us. And I'm just
Well,
like, oh,
they're supposedly, I think they're still working on it as far as like getting the final approvals and stuff like that from Northampton. But they're supposed to be going one up on 329 near the Ace Hardware store, across from the Ace Hardware store on 329.
well, Ace is the place.
So that's like right next. My dad could literally walk there. It's like my
Yeah.
dad lives in the housing development right there behind that.
Okay.
So the only problem is like they have to be very specific about what traffic they allow in there. They were told, according to the agreement, and I don't know if they agreed to it, is that they are not allowed to have diesel fuel there because they do not want tractor trailers trying to pull in there and stop and refuel
Oh, yeah, that
because
makes sense.
that highway is I mean, it's not terrible, but it would be terrible for traffic if they allowed tractor trailers to be able to
Yeah.
come in and try and fuel there because it's just if you've ever drove 329 through Northampton area, it is not a tractor trailer friendly road. Like
No,
it's
it's
just
not.
not.
I mean,
So,
the first Wawa they built down here was out in the Outer Banks, which I get. It's touristy, understand.
ooh, the Outer Banks. There's a
So,
TV
and then,
show.
and then, yes. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they had advertisements about that when they're filming and all that jazz. And then the other two are kind of in a rural area, which I get, but they're supposed to be building, I think, like 100 Wawas between North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. So there's going to be more coming, like in our state and closer to where I'm at and whatnot. It's just going to take some time. But speaking of gas stations, they got approval, and it kind of went same thing with that Wawa on Freemansburg by Pat. Um, they're building a Bucky's in North Carolina, the first one.
Ooh,
And this one's about like it's down the road from one of the outlets, the Tanger outlets in Mebane, North Carolina, which is about 40 minutes, half hour to 40 minutes away from me. But it's Bucky's. I stopped there on the way home from Florida last year from the esports grand finals that we had.
mm-hmm.
That place is amazing.
They say
Bucky's
it is.
Bucky's is awesome. That place is huge, but the amount of shit they put in that place, oh, it's good. And the food is good. I got some brisket, got some other some ribs and stuff. Oh yeah. Good stuff. Oh,
Joe's over here. Joe's drooling in his room as he's thinking about brisket. It's so
oh,
good.
some sandwiches. I'm like, just grab them. Let's take a read. Don't worry, they'll be good. Eat them on the road, whatever. Oh yeah, good food. That place is different. It's totally different, but that's such a fun place. I'm excited when that place is going to be open because I will drive the 40 minutes to Bucky's. Listen, my cousin lives out by the one Wawa, and when we go out there, when we leave my cousins, we beeline it 5 minutes down the road to go to Wawa, get myself a banana Foster's, and then head home. It's fun, all good.
Ay, oh man.
Oh Lord, what a day! What a day. So
Yes.
so what do we guys feel? How do we feel on this college football bracket.
I don't know.
As
Let me
you
take a
might be
look.
able to tell, dear listeners, we do not do transition material. We just bounce from one subject to another.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of had
Feel like a kid with
something,
ADHD.
I kind of had something for a transition, but it just wasn't feeling it. I don't think it would have worked well, so I kind of just like, the hell with it. I'll scrap that one. Like
All
Vince
right.
McMahon back in the day. He has a plan for a match, and then 5 minutes before it goes on, he scraps it and rewrites shit. So that's
This
what I kind of
script
did.
sucks. We gotta rewrite it.
And then he says, "Oh, this is such good shit." Okay, and that's where I did. I just rolled with it. Here it is.
No, he would say it was such good shit. Ah,
Oh, and then give somebody a white Christmas. There you go.
there's
You help,
Janelle.
you help me out with that one. Oh boy.
All right. So I'm looking at the bracket here.
Well, while Jeremy is looking, let me say
Correct.
this. So last week I went to go see Gladiator 2 with my dad.
Ooh. Okay, you can tell me about that later.
You can skip it. Um,
Oh, okay.
I could have told you that just by
there's no need to go see it in the theater, really. You're not going to miss that much by watching it at home eventually. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Um,
I'll wait.
excuse me. So, um, I had to leave to drive over to Jersey to go see it. But the brackets were coming out like right before that, and I was like, all right, hopefully they'll release the full bracket like right before I have to leave so I can see it. So I'm like, all right, this is unfolding pretty much as we expected. Oh, Notre Dame gets to play Indiana.
Yeah.
Really kind of hoping they'd get matched up against a team that would have to come to play a game in South Bend in December, quite frankly, like from the South. Um,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
I
and
get you.
specifically an SEC team, but it was like, that's the way. And of course, I was also kind of like, oh yeah, so now they play Georgia in the quarterfinals. Yeah. Wouldn't have happened if Texas could have beaten Georgia last night, but no, you know. Texas would have been in the top four, Georgia would not. Notre Dame and Penn State would both be one spot higher in the seedings. So it gets to like they've just got to reveal the last spot, which is who Penn State is playing. And it's like they do the side-by-side graphic there of Alabama and SMU. And it showed like their strength of schedule ranking, their strength of record schedule ranking, I think.
Which is a joke, but okay, go
Yeah,
ahead.
their record against teams in the top 50, I think it was, and their key wins. Now I noticed that they left out their losses.
Yeah, go figure that one. Let's leave out the losses.
Well, I have a theory as to why they did that.
Fucking
I'll get to that
ridiculous.
in a second. So, but anyway, just looking at that side by side, Alabama was much higher ranking in the rated in the strength of schedule and strength of record. They had a slightly better record. I think it was 5-1 versus 5-2 against the top 50. The
Mhm.
key wins were what they were. I think Alabama's best one was better than SMU's best one, but I wasn't really caring because they listed four. I'm like, who gives a shit? So I'm like, okay, so it's going to be Alabama. And then they go back to the bracket and SMU pops up. And I just immediately went, I was genuinely shocked. I figured, which I'm sure most people did, that they would have an SEC bias. Now, people can whine and bitch and moan all they want because, of course, that's what they do. Paul Feinbaum can leave these charges because that's what he does. He's, complete SEC apologist. I didn't
His
hear.
wife is
I
from
know.
Alabama.
Now,
His
let me
wife
just
went to
say.
Alabama,
Let
so
me
I
just
get it.
say, I did not hear any of it. I have not seen any video, listened to any of his reaction since the bracket was revealed. Mostly because I knew exactly what he was going to say based upon everything that I saw leading up to it. So,
You can make something up right now, and it's going to be pretty close to what he probably said.
right, I'm sure. Yeah, you know.
I've heard multiple things that he said. It's
So
hypocritical.
people can bitch, whine, and moan all they want. You can bitch about the way the system is set up. You can bitch about the fact that like the conference champions automatically get in and like the top four automatically get buys, which I sure as hell will because in my view, there's no way Notre Dame's a worse team than Boise State or Arizona State. Come at me. I know Notre Dame's got the horrible Northern Illinois loss, but look at what they did since then. Um, Penn State not so much because Penn State doesn't have any very impressive wins. Their losses against Oregon and Ohio State weren't bad. but they also,
Well, Alabama has a bad loss too.
well,
So
this is what I was getting to. I'm
yeah.
taking forever to say it. I'm sorry. Um, you want to be in this playoff. Strength of schedule will help. And of course, Alabama's trying to say, well, maybe we shouldn't have played such a tough out of conference schedule. You played Mercer. I don't care that Mercer was in the division, the FCS playoff. They're an FCS team.
Yeah.
You play an FCS team. I don't want to hear about you wanting, oh, our out of conference strength of schedule was too challenging.
Yeah, that's a
Right.
joke.
And they're saying, oh, in future years, we're playing Notre Dame and we're playing Florida State and we're blah, blah. Well, okay. Yeah, you're playing Florida State next year. Florida State was one of the worst goddamn teams in the country this year. You think they're going to be appreciably better already next year? When they play Notre Dame in like 3 or 4 years, you think Notre Dame's necessarily going to be as good then as they were this year? It doesn't work that way.
You
Okay.
don't
So
know.
anyway,
It's
but
name recognition. That's what they're trying to throw at you.
right. You want to be in this goddamn playoff, then here's a trick for you. Okay. It's called win your games. All right. And I know you
Simple.
say we played a tough schedule. And yes, you did. The SEC probably is the best overall conference. And yes, you lost a 7-point game to Tennessee, who's in the playoff. And you had decent wins against Missouri and LSU. And you beat Georgia, who's in the playoff and is the second seed. That's great. You also lost by 5 points to Vanderbilt. And then the big one, you lost by 21 points to a very mediocre Oklahoma team.
Yep, that's the one right there. That's one of them.
Vanderbilt finished 6-6. Oklahoma finished 6-6.
Yep.
You cannot, in my opinion, whine that much about not making it when you have 2 losses to 500 teams
Yep.
on your resume.
Yes.
Notre Dame has 1 loss to Northern Illinois, who had a winning record. Yes, it's a horrible loss. It's probably the worst loss of any of the blah, 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 blah. Fine. I won't disagree. Penn State has 2 losses to a team that's the #1 overall team and undefeated.
Oregon.
And
Destroying
to Ohio
everybody.
State, who only has 2 losses to the same team and to a mediocre Michigan team. And unfortunately, they don't have a lot of impressive wins, but okay. So, like I said, Georgia, LSU, and Missouri are all decent wins. Like Missouri and LSU were ranked when you play them and beat them handily. Georgia was a touchdown game, but LSU also only finished 8-4, and Missouri finished 9-3. So
9-3 is good. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Alabama and their supporters, and anybody who was also arguing for South Carolina or Ole Miss, were basically trying to pitch this as we're from the SEC, therefore we get special consideration.
Yeah, and that's really what they've been pushing, and it's very hypocritical compared to what their narrative is this year compared to what their narrative was last year. And it's always this weird back end narrative bullshit. Listen, one of the things you did see from the committee is that you making it to your conference championship game means something. And the teams that lost weren't really penalized for losing that game. You know, did Alabama make a championship game? Nope. Did SMU? Yes. Was that their second loss of the season? Yes. Did they have a better record? Yes, they did. So, yes, I know the strength of schedule, strength of record, I think is a joke. I think it's the redhead stepchild of strength of schedule. I think it's a stupid fucking stat. I don't get
Yeah,
it.
either you win or you lose. Doesn't matter who
I
you're
think
playing.
it's just fucking dumb.
Yeah.
Top 25
I
wins,
mean,
all
to an
that.
extent it is. To an extent it is because if you got these Division 1 teams playing like these punk Division 1 teams that really aren't Division 1 teams, but it gets them more
And
recruiting and stuff like
and they
that,
get
then
they get
yeah.
money for it and stuff. And the biggest thing, those games don't hurt a lot of the SEC teams because the SEC has been a very good conference for such a long time. When they play those cream puff teams, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be rude, guys, but playing those cream puff teams, you know, it doesn't hurt when they win. Oh, yeah, they were supposed to, so it doesn't really rack up their fucking strength of schedule, but it doesn't really hurt them in that aspect either. To me, I here's the thing. Like I agree SMU should be in. Alabama should not have been in. I'm actually I'm fine with what it looks like because here's the thing. Of all the bowls and all the playoffs and all the way to systems we've used to have, when have we ever had an opportunity to see Arizona State and Boise State like in the top four? And I've heard some people complain about, the top four teams, the top four seeds shouldn't be, favored for conference champions. They should just let it be, and whoever the top 12 is, and that's how they should do it, get the 12 best teams in based off the rankings, so on and so on. But at the end of the day, I disagree with that because I think winning a conference championship means something. So you should be rewarded in an aspect. So I'm fine with the top four uh, seeds go into the top four highest conference champions. I don't have an issue with that because you're going to get scenarios like we have in the first year. Boise State gets a bye, Arizona State gets a bye. You know, these teams are working their asses off to put the best schedules they can for non-conference. And you know what? One of the stuff I saw too was like these um what the commissioners of these conferences getting into arguments with each other, complaining about schedules. Whoa, well, SMU didn't play the tough teams in the ACC. Well, dipshit, it's a rotation. They they can't help that this year they didn't play fucking Clemson and Miami during the season and stuff like that. It's not their fault. It's the schedule makers. They have to add new teams. They do the schedules, and that's how it fucking falls. Like some of the pettiness between these ADs and stuff is just ridiculous. I
Yeah, it's not Penn State's fault that Oregon wasn't on their regular season schedule and the teams
yeah,
were like Washington and USC were mediocre this year instead of elite.
yeah. I mean, like you
It's
can't.
gonna it's always going to be cyclical, you know.
Yeah, they always want to bitch about something. It's just hysterical. I'm fine. Listen, all nine conferences agreed to this setup for this year. At the end of this college football playoff, they can go back and revisit if they want to make tweaks. And they probably will. Who knows what they'll be? There'll be something.
Well,
A-
I mean, there's definitely one tweak I would like to see.
And we'll see what that tweaks is that the conferences decide to agree upon and move forward. But I am fine. I'm gonna give you like I'm picking Texas, Tennessee, Penn State, and Notre Dame to win. My favorite to win the national championship is Oregon. My second favorite is Notre Dame, and my dark horse is Tennessee. Those are my three teams that I think that legitimately can win the national championship. Like that's my order of teams.
Yeah, I
Because a lot of these teams right now have shown vulnerability
yeah,
multiple times during the course of the season.
yeah. Or Oregon still kind of stands kind of head and shoulders above the rest to me.
Yes. Their defense can be
But
very
yeah,
lackey at times.
right. Penn State definitely at least gave them a challenge. Now
Yes.
Oregon never really trailed in the game, but like when Oregon went up 14-3 on Penn State in that game, I figured it was over and it was going to be a
Like, oh
blowout.
no.
But to Penn State's credit, they didn't let them blow them away. Uh,
Oregon's defense gives up a lot of big plays
yeah,
sporadically, and that's what their
yeah.
their biggest weakness is on their defense.
Now, obviously, Oregon's offense is good because nobody did that to Penn State's defense all year.
No.
You know, not even Ohio State. Ohio State only scored like 20 points or so. So it's like nobody had really quite. I think USC might have been the only other team that scored a lot of points on Penn State's defense. But and like Penn State just looked incapable of stopping Oregon for most of that game. Um, so it's like I can't even blame it on Franklin and everything and his play calling or whatever for once for Penn State losing a big game. I was like, oh, they just got beat. You
Oregon's
know?
offense is just that good.
Yeah. But the one tweak I would definitely like to see,
But who's going to Oregon to play football? That's crazy. Like,
I don't agree with this. Give the four highest ranked conference champions buys shit.
No.
I mean, the bracket would be much different if they hadn't done that. So, um, we'll see what they do with that part of it. Especially, you will definitely hear a cry to get rid of that if one or more, and obviously I'm thinking more along the lines of Boise State and Arizona State here than Georgia or Oregon. lose in the quarterfinal games. So,
Hmm.
like, I mean, I can't remember I'd have to look it up, and I don't really feel like doing it right now. But, yeah, whatever teams lose, if Arizona State and Boise State should both lose the first game that they play in this playoff, which means the quarterfinal, which means they get beat by a team that had to play the week before, essentially, or next weekend, then you will definitely hear a lot of people saying, "Well, I guess we shouldn't be giving out the buys," and I
Oh,
don't really
of course
disagree,
you're gonna.
and I
Of
don't
course.
really disagree with that because I don't think Boise State and Arizona State are among the four best teams in the country. I don't.
No, probably not. But based off the criteria, you gotta hand out what you hand out.
Yeah, it's like that's the system they agreed to. Then okay, that's what we'll go with. But um, we've all we're already seeing. Well, okay, that's a little strong. It's
You earn
appearing
what you earn.
it's appearing like there's already a flaw with that system because I don't think anybody would put Boise State or Arizona State in their top four. I mean, they didn't finish in the top four in the actual rankings, so
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, but just to kind of wind up the SEC whining real quick.
Yeah, stop whining.
Well, no. The other two
Get off
teams
your
that were
soapbox.
the other two teams that were trying to say that we should be there. Again, I don't have the strength of schedule or rankings or anything like that. Mississippi, they beat Georgia. They
Mhm.
don't have any other great wins. They lost to LSU in overtime. They lost to Florida, who finished 7-5. They lost to Kentucky, who finished with a losing record. And their non-conference schedule was Furman, an FCS team who was bad, Middle Tennessee, who was bad, Wake Forest, who was bad, and Georgia Southern. Okay, they won all those games and won them all by a lot, but again, wasn't the greatest competition. Georgia Southern at least had a winning record and is going to a bowl game.
Yeah, yeah.
South Carolina, they lost to LSU, Mississippi, and Alabama. So three pretty decent teams.
They have no leg to
They
stand on.
they beat Texas A&M, Clemson, and Missouri. And again, Missouri and Texas A&M ended up being, A&M finished. What did they finish? 9 and no. A&M finished 8-4.
Yeah.
Missouri finished, damn it, 9-3, and then Clemson, of course, got into the playoff because they won the ACC title game. South
I don't know if you
Carolina's
guys
out
can
of
hear that. I
conference.
hope not.
South Carolina's out of conference schedule was Old Dominion, who finished with a losing record. Um, Akron, who finished with a losing record. Clemson and Wofford, an FCS team, who finished with a losing record.
Yeah, those other teams trying to get in, they have no leg to stand on.
Right. So it's
Period.
like you got some decent wins, but you lost games that would have better enhanced your resume and your non-conference schedule outside of Clemson was laughable.
I was telling AG this when this came out. I had started seeing SEC people, their fan base, calling for a college football playoff NIT, like the college basketball NIT, the ones you don't
Oh,
get
that
in.
is so dumb.
And they had it where there was like Alabama was the 4 seed or the 3 seed, and it was a bunch of I think half of it had like SEC teams in it, and there were some other teams sprinkled in there too. And I was like, "Are you kidding me right now? Like we're gonna get that petty and we need an NIT for the college football? No,
Yeah.
no, we don't.
What's funny is that I think those same people are and I'm basing this off of politics and where they live. I will freely say that. But those are the same kind of people who I think always are whining about people getting participation trophies.
It made me laugh because there was a bunch of people that had posted like their versions of it, and no, they had Illinois in there. I was like, all right, cool. I said, but yeah, no, no, absolutely not. No, I don't want to see that shit. Mm-mm, no bueno. Yeah, dumb. It's just like they're way, way, way out in left field and not being realistic about this. Listen, every year there's going to be something different people talk about, but let's see. Let's see how this rolls. Let's see how these games play out. I'm curious to see how it goes. And what the first game is on the 20th, right? Notre Dame. Yeah, you guys, your Notre Dame team starts everything off on the 20th against Indiana.
That's gonna be a fun effing game. Friday
I
night, December 20th in South Bend. I think I saw that it's going to be like 20 degrees.
Nice. That's what they deserve.
I said, if only they were playing an SEC team rather than another team from the same goddamn state.
Yeah, I know. I predict I have, like I said, I have Notre Dame winning that game. If you
I
had it,
see the thing is too, I think the weather conditions, I think definitely kind of more help a team like Notre Dame, which is more run based on offense.
yeah,
You know,
Indiana's more throwing.
I don't think unless something's changed since I looked up the extended forecast, and obviously we're still 5 days away from that game. Um, I don't think I saw anything about precipitation, and I don't think I saw like heavy wind.
Mhm.
But obviously, if any of those things should come into play, then definitely favors a run-based offense, and Notre Dame is a more run-based offense. So.
Yeah, I have them winning that game. Um, the second round games are going to be the more interesting games, I think, for certain matchups, depending on who wins the first games.
Let's see if the favored teams or the higher ranked teams win the first round. We'll have what Notre Dame, Georgia, Oregon, Ohio State again, right?
Yep.
Um,
Penn State, Boise
Boise
State,
State, Penn State, and Arizona
Texas.
State, Texas.
Yeah.
You're going to see Oregon and Georgia would definitely be favored in those games. No dissing to Notre Dame, but Georgia will be favored against Notre Dame.
Yeah, they will.
I would not at all be surprised to see Penn State and Texas favored in those games if those matchups end up happening.
Yeah, I still see some flaws in Texas game though that
Yeah, they've been on
Arizona could take
display
advantage.
they've been on display pretty clearly in 2 games against Georgia. So
Yeah, and some other games where they've have not played well and had to come back to win some games. Some
yeah,
stuff that
I mean
Arizona State can exploit, but I mean,
they
we'll
couldn't
see.
beat Georgia when Georgia had their backup quarterback in there. So
Yeah,
I know it was only a half, but the game was still pretty damn close. So
yeah, yep. We'll see. We'll see. It's going to be interesting. First time, the ratings are going to be through the roof. They'll make money off of it. So,
oh
you
yeah,
know,
this is definitely gonna have the only thing that I could think that could maybe dissuade interest is the schedule in terms of how spread apart they are. Um, but at the same time, it's like they have to be spread apart a little bit, of course. So,
yeah, they do. They do. 100%.
you know,
100%. They got to be.
you can't play that many games. Uh, this isn't basketball. You can't
No.
play 3 games in a week.
And this is a lot tougher. This is football. This is something where you play on a Friday. We're playing next Wednesday. Yeah, you don't want to be doing that shit.
Yeah. So
Like the NFL does with their Thursday night games.
yes. So the Notre Dame Indiana game is Friday the 20th, and then the other 3 first round games, Texas,
Saturday.
Ohio State, Tennessee, Penn State, SMU are next Saturday the 21st. Then the 3 quarterfinals, the Fiesta Bowl, which is Boise State against the Penn State SMU winner, is New Year's Eve. And then the other 3 games, the Arizona State against the Texas Clemson winner in the Peach Bowl, Oregon against the Ohio State Tennessee winner in the Rose Bowl, and Georgia against the Notre Dame Indiana winner in the Sugar Bowl are all New Year's Day. And then the semifinals, the Orange Bowl, which will be the Georgia Notre Dame Indiana versus Boise State Penn State SMU winner in the Orange Bowl, is January 9th. And the other semifinal in the Cotton Bowl is January 10th, which will be the Oregon Ohio State Tennessee winner versus the Arizona State Texas Clemson winner. And then the national championship isn't until the 20th of January.
Yeah. And the January, but I mean, it makes sense.
Right. So it's like, everybody, the winners of the first round games, they get 10 to 11 days off before the quarterfinals. There is a 8 or 9 day gap between the quarterfinals and the semifinals, and then a 11 or 10 or 11 day gap between the semifinals and the championship. So the team should have time to like recover and be like fresh. obviously, what we're going to see is the same thing that we see every year in bowl season, which is how much layoff was too much layoff. Because for the teams that didn't play in a conference championship game, it's going to have been a while since they played a game. Like Notre Dame's last game, um, was what, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
It's a long time without a game in football.
Yeah. Shit, what day was this game against USC? Yeah, it was November 30th. So that was 2 weeks ago yesterday. So tack on another week essentially. So basically 3 weeks in between games for Notre Dame. It'll be the same for Indiana. SMU, Penn State both played in conference championship games. Ohio State, Tennessee both did not. Texas and Clemson both did. So,
What's your revelation?
did they arrange the brackets like that intentionally? Did they arrange the rankings like that intentionally so like they wouldn't have like an imbalance between like days of rest?
Maybe.
I didn't realize that until just now, but who knows? Who knows? But yeah, I'm anxious to see how this all plays out. So, and it's also kind of fun that you've got 3 northern teams hosting first round games. There's like no big thing in the Indiana Notre Dame game because they're both from Indiana. You got a team from Texas going to Pennsylvania, and you got a team from Tennessee going to Ohio.
Tennessee and Ohio ain't that far away, honestly.
That's what I mean. I'm like, it's like Tennessee's not like the deep South.
It's mid-south.
It can get cold in Tennessee in the winter, so
Yeah,
it'll still be probably a little bit shocking for them going to play a night game in Columbus in late December.
I just hope they can win.
But of the road teams, the team that's probably going to have the biggest kind of shock as far as the dealing with weather is really going to be SMU, being a team from Texas having to come to play in Pennsylvania. And I believe when I looked again at the extended forecast for next Saturday, it's not looking like it's going to be very warm in State College either. So
No, probably not. Probably not.
yeah, because the thing with State College too, State College is usually one of the colder places in the state of Pennsylvania because it's at a higher elevation. I remember being there in like late summer once, and it was like only like 60 degrees, and it was like, oh boy, I need a jacket. What the hell is this?
Yeah, I've been to Penn State multiple times, and some cold nights. Yes. Doesn't matter how much alcohol is in my body those nights. It was very cold.
Would you like a little brandy, man?
Little brandy man.
Yeah.
This sounds funny.
I don't think there was enough brandy in that bottle to warm me up as I walked from one bar to another on those cold Penn State nights. Definitely not.
Yeah, I went outside and I immediately froze.
And fans, as you can tell, I don't have much to say about football because I don't watch college football. So I'm just sitting here. Yeah, sounds good.
What's wrong with you? Are you un-American? Are you not watching the Fansville Dr. Pepper ads and obsessing over it like the rest of us are?
Nope.
Are you not American? Oh, that was funny.
I will say though, when I looked at the bracket and I saw that Boise State was in there, because I had to look I couldn't identify 2 of the teams. I couldn't identify SMU or Boise State by their emblem.
Logos.
I'm like, who the hell are these stupid teams? And I'm looking at Boise. I'm like, Boise State. Like, yeah, they had a great record, but Boise State.
Well,
Hey,
yeah,
SMU.
Boise State only lost 1 game all year. It was the second game of the season to Oregon. It was a close game.
Yeah.
And Oregon won because they had a couple of kick returns, I think, for touchdowns in that game. So
And SMU wasn't that. Who was the team that got the death sentence?
SMU.
Was it? I thought it was
Yep.
SMU. I thought I remember it was.
They got
being
the death sentence back in the 80s, and it's never been given since.
And
I
they
think
finally
there's-
have recovered to a point where they have a program that's worth something.
Yeah, they over the last decade or so, they've had some decent teams. They haven't been elite, of course, and it's nothing like the old Southwestern Conference used to be. But yeah, they've claw their way back to respectability. Obviously, it took very many years, and of course, that's why nobody's ever been given the death penalty since. And I think the only two times it was ever even seriously, really seriously considered for either football or basketball in the years since SMU got it was Kentucky basketball almost got it in the late 80s, early 90s. And I think they saw that how thoroughly wrecked SMU's football program was that they said we should err on the side of caution with this. And
No, they could have gave it to Kentucky. Kentucky would have been okay.
I'm sure AJ will always be eternally grateful that Kentucky didn't get the death penalty. And the only other time I can ever really remember it seriously being discussed, and I was offended, frankly, by it, was Penn State
Yeah, with the whole
with the
thing.
Sandusky stuff. And the reason I was pissed about that was I'm like, dude, punish the program fine. The death penalty for something that had nothing to do with like football
Yeah,
seems very wrong, as heinous as his crimes were and as bad as the cover
yes,
up was. It's like you're going to be punishing a bunch of student athletes who were there now, who weren't there when the crimes happened, who had nothing to do with it, and any potential recruits who would like to go there in the years to come. So I'm like, who also obviously would have had nothing to do with it. So
right.
to me,
That
that
should
would have
have.
been bad, and I don't think it was ever seriously considered. But I remember hearing a couple people suggest it, and I was
Yeah,
like, oh, come on now. And of course, the penalties they were given were pretty damn harsh enough, some of which were relaxed and everything. But, um, it was like death penalty for that would have been just
yeah.
goddamn
It's
ridiculous. And I'd be very
like
surprised. In the, yeah, considering where we are now with the NIL and everything else, I'd be very surprised if anybody ever got the death penalty in college sports again.
yeah,
Yeah.
and for just to kind of with Penn State, and it for me, like what happened on that university with the coach, Sandusky and what he did, and the people that didn't report it and all that stuff was absolutely terrible. But for the NCAA to step in and say that they needed to penalize the program for what they did never really made sense to me because they didn't cheat in football. They didn't do illegal recruiting. There was nothing what that actually impacted the football program and the outcomes of their games. So why are you going to penalize the football program that college for things that didn't involve the outcome of games? Like that's where those penalties should have they should have just said, okay, the federal government is, whoever is investigating it, those people are handling it. They'll deal out the right punishments to the right people. Those people will be prosecuted because this is not a football matter. This is a, legality, a legal matter in regards to, whoever
Individual
needs
and
to be
something
involved in
totally
it.
different.
Right. So, I mean, I understand that they wanted to, we got to put our foot down, but it wasn't their place to put their foot down in that matter. It was not a football matter. It was a college criminal problem. So it always irked me that the NCAA felt like they had to involve themselves in trying to dish out penalties, which made absolutely no sense. And that's not to say that wrongdoings were not done, because there was definitely a ton of wrongdoings done in regards to the Jerry Sandusky thing.
I always,
Prosecute all that on a criminal aspect.
Yeah.
yeah,
Criminal
I
manner.
always felt that the NCAA stepped in to that because they had to, in the sense that if they didn't, um, people would really be on their ass. Like there was going to be like an outcry for them to do so. Like they must be punished. This is so heinous. This goes beyond football, so they must be punished for it. And it's like, yeah, you go after the individuals that were, charged for it. Paterno got his penalty. Sandusky went to jail. The people who did the cover up went to jail.
Hmm.
It's like, yeah, that was the punishment that needed to be doled out, not punishment on the program. They were trying to say like the program allowed this to happen, and it's like, not really. I mean, individuals allowed it to happen. I mean, were they part of the program? Yes, but so were plenty of other people who had nothing to do with it. So
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. If
see
they
the
if they
problem.
want
The
to
problem
deal
is,
out death penalties, deal out death penalties to
yeah,
Ohio State. That team cheats consistently. They're always illegal recruiting and stuff. Maybe
Yeah.
not as much anymore because of the fact that the NIL deals that go on, they don't have to pay players to come there now. They get paid on the side. So, but they were definitely, of all the teams that have ever broken any rules in NCAA recruiting, Ohio State is like the biggest offender that got slaps on the wrist 2 times and it didn't stop them from doing anything anyways.
Yeah. I mean, what I was just gonna say is like the problem with me arguing, um, oh, Penn State shouldn't have been punished this harshly, blah 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 blah. It's not the easiest thing for me to do because I'm not unbiased, obviously being a Penn State fan. I don't want the program to suffer because
of individuals.
there goes my rooting interest, So, it's like I always say, I always admit, hey, I'm not unbiased when it comes to this, but it's also at the same time, there's a line that I feel like they went over when they were trying to figure out, what do we got to do? So,
Yeah, the NCAA oversteps in certain aspects, and they don't involve themselves immediately in using their authority properly in other areas that they should be.
yeah, well, it's like
It's like they pick and choose when they should, like, oh, this is a good situation for us to be able to involve ourselves in. This one we don't. We'll let this one slide. It's like,
yeah,
no,
it's
be across the board right.
it's because they don't have authority to do stuff. It's like they're not like an investigative body, like like a district attorney's office or a U.S. attorney's office is. They don't have subpoena power. They can't force people to talk to them. So the only way that they can ever make cases to punish people is if somebody willingly comes to them with information.
Yeah.
So what is the so in that case, what does the NCAA actually do? Because if they can't enforce any of the things because they can't prosecute and they can't interview anybody, why are they there?
Yeah,
Oh, to make lots of money off the colleges and say
right,
that you can't do this.
right. I mean, but
Make stupid rules that make no sense.
the colleges are making that money too, and it's like, and this is why I kind of came around on the whole concept of paying players. I was always like, oh, they're getting paid, they get a scholarship, and blah blah blah. Now, obviously, a lot of these athletes aren't cut out to
And
pass. I'm going to sound a little dicey here, but a lot of these kids aren't cut out to pass college level courses. I mean,
well,
we've
well, on top of that, you learn about some of the dark things that go on at these colleges with these kids that they get these full scholarships, and then but they have no money to buy food or buy clothes, so they're out there doing illegal things to make sure that they can get clothes and food because their
right,
parents
and
because they come from
that's
poor families
and that's
but they've been given these rides.
right, and that's what helped lead to guys taking payoffs in the past. Or point shaving scandals,
Yeah.
whatever it would be. So again, like I said, that's one of the reasons why I came around on a lot of this stuff was because I'm like, they might be getting an education, but are they really getting an education? That scandal in North Carolina several years ago really proved that to me because, I remember seeing some of like the papers that these guys were submitting and getting like A's on. And I remember looking at a lot of them and saying, I wouldn't have gotten an F on that when I was in 5th grade. Like it was so
No.
bad. It was so bad that my teacher probably would have said to me, "You're doing this again."
And you're going to do it right this time.
Yeah, I'm not even going to accept this from you. And they're getting A's
Yeah.
on at a major, university. So
100%.
So I mean, well, that's the other reason too. It's like, all these like scandals that we've had throughout the history of college athletics. I'm like, well, shit, we'll probably eliminate a lot of those if we pay these players like, an amount or whatever. Now, one thing, of course, that I hate already hearing is I hate hearing like this roster costs $20 million to construct. I'm like,
I know.
no, no, it's not like an actual like payroll and everything. It's not like, oh, this is the contract they just doled out to Juan Soto or Max Fried or whoever, just come on. Don't fuck
I,
out
I
of here with
wonder
that
I
shit.
I do wonder if college athletes now go into these meetings with the coaches and the staff and that at these colleges going, what kind of NIL deal am I going to get? Like,
They
I wonder
do.
if that's like part of the
Sure they
conversation
do.
now, as far
I'm
as like,
sure they do.
because I
The
don't know
coaches,
exactly how NILs work. I don't know if that's something that the colleges give them or if that's something that are able to pursue on their own.
Both.
Like,
I was gonna say, I think both.
It's
Yeah.
both. Yeah, the colleges now have been like creating their own NIL deals and getting money from their boosters and local companies and things of that nature to put in like a pot to offer, NIL money to these kids. But yeah, it's it's one of the reasons like kind of Saban got out because some of these kids he was going to recruit were like that was like one of their first questions these kids are asking, what's the NIL stuff? What's the NIL deals I can get? Like what type of money I can make? That's been some of the big topics where some of these coaches are just they're struggling to have
yeah,
those type of conversations and having that be added to the recruiting process of trying to get these kids to their college. It's like,
and I get it. These
show me
kids
the
want to
money.
these kids want to make money, and I completely understand that. You're playing a sport, you're playing at a very high level.
Yeah.
Um, the colleges are making money off you playing for them, through jersey sales, through blah blah blah, whatever it is. Um, I think the phrasing, and we have no idea how these kids are phrasing this, but I'm sure there would be probably a better phrasing. What is my potential if I come to your school in regards to NIL deals? Like, what is my
Yeah.
potential? Like, based on how I play and, this, that, and the other thing, like, what kind of potential do I have to earn money through NIL deals? I think that would be a better phrase question than just, how much am I going to get paid?
Well,
Because I'm sure that's more or less the question how it comes out from a lot of kids. Like, how much am I going to get paid when I come to your school?
yeah,
Like,
that would be a better question, but
Not how it's
we know
going.
that's not how kids think,
no,
or
no,
some of the
no,
parents of these kids.
not even that so much. The way that we've got this system as it is now, that's not the way it's going to be posed to them.
Mm,
Not every
true.
school is going to expect the kid to ask, "What's my potential for NIL money?" These schools are going to be in sell mode, so they're going to say, "This is what you'll get in NIL money." So therefore, the kid's never going to ask, "What's like my potential to get NIL money?" It's what is my NIL money? And that's the way
Yeah.
the scrutiny goes. And look, I get Saban for not wanting any part of it now, but it's like I don't really have a lot of sympathy for these like old school college coaches who now suddenly have to adapt to the new economics, as it were, of the game. Because for years they got their bucks
Oh, fuck yeah, they did.
and these kids didn't. Now the kids are getting still a lot less than what he's getting. And he's all like, I can't deal with this anymore.
Yeah, college football and college basketball coaches make way more money
Yeah.
than
Oh,
some of the like. If you
hmm
take look at a professional um, basketball coach or football coach, like I'm gonna just look that up. I'm gonna look up the average salary of an NBA coach.
well, here's the thing too, while you're doing that.
Yes.
Years ago, John Oliver had a segment on his show about paying college athletes. And one of the people that he called out by name was Dabo Swinney.
Yeah.
And he aired, and I don't remember exactly what year this was, but he aired comments from Dabo Swinney saying something to the effect of like, well, when you start paying these college athletes, well, that's where you lose me. I'll go do something else.
It was like 2 years ago.
No, it was more than 2 years ago.
Was it more than 2 years
It
ago?
was definitely more than 2 years ago.
Hmm.
But so he had a video clip of Dabo Swinney saying, when you start paying college athletes, I'll go do something else. Last time I checked, Dabo Swinney's still the head coach at Clemson. Um,
Of
but
course.
what Oliver also pointed out in the segment wasn't just what Swinney's salary is from like what like the University of Clemson pays him to be their head football coach. It was also how much he gets for radio show appearances, how much he gets for, public speaking appearances, how much he gets for this, how much he gets for that. It wasn't just his coaching salary, as far as like his earnings potential. And again, meanwhile, the people who are allowing him to earn that money,
Yep.
don't get shit. So that was another thing that just kind of made me go, yeah, it's like these coaches get to profit off of it, mucho dinero. But the kids don't. And I'm not saying every kid is worth it. Like obviously the poor bastard who sits the bench for all 4 years that he's in school probably shouldn't really be getting NIL money, because there's no NIL. Well, no, I'm sorry.
So
There's no NIR, name, image, recognition. So nobody
Yeah,
knows who the guy is who rides the bench all for 4 years, no matter what school he goes to.
no.
So
um,
yeah,
so evidently I had no clue what an NBA coach makes because I've never actually cared. Um,
well,
but the average,
professional coaches, I'm sure. Well, actually, no. But I always would assume professional coaches get paid more than college coaches.
so the
Some
average median salary is about 7 million.
a year.
For what?
Um,
What was that
I think
7 million
it's
for?
a year, 7 million a year.
Yeah,
For what?
for
Um,
what?
for NBA,
Okay.
which kind of makes more sense because the NBA does make a lot of money. There's a lot of games. You're coaching a lot more than, no offense to the NFL, you're coaching a lot more in NBA than you are in NFL. Like, yes, you have your practices, but you have a lot of off days in NFL as far as like coaching practices. You're in the office, you're doing things. But we'll get to the NFL. But crazy enough, the top four paid coaches: Steve Kerr with a 2-year, 35 million extension on his 2025-2026 season. Greg Popovich with a 5-year, 80 million contract. Eric Spatrol,
Spolstra.
Spolstra, thank you. He has an 8-year, 120 million dollar contract extension, and Monty Williams with a 6-year, 78.5 million contract, which is
So give
crazy
you
because
go
that's
ahead.
crazy.
So to give you a breakdown of that, what you just mentioned, Steve Kerr is making 17.5 million. Popovich is making 16 million. Spoelstra is making 15 million. Tyrone Lue is making 14. Um, the dude from Phoenix, I can't remember how to pronounce his name, and then Doc Rivers is each making $10 million a year this year. And then after that, all the other coaches, it goes from 9 million per year to the lowest is the coach from Toronto, which is making $4 million a year. Even the coach from Boston making $4.7 million. So yeah, like there's like a top tier and then like everyone else. So that makes sense around that $7 million mark.
Yeah, and it looks like it's the same for head coaches in the NFL. Like they make a big deal, and maybe it's because the media makes these big deals out of these college coaches, like salaries and what they get offered, that it made me think that maybe NFL coaches and NBA coaches don't make as much, but they definitely make bank. Like they're not getting paid. They're definitely getting paid. Like Andy Reid in the NFL, he's getting 20 million a year, which I think is ridiculous.
Yeah, he's the
Uh,
highest.
Well, just to kind of quickly interrupt there, with NFL coaches getting paid as much as they do, and like comparing it to NBA coaches as well, it's not about the number of games they have to coach or the number of days that they have to like do stuff or whatever like that. It's based upon the amount of revenue that the league brings in. That's what it's always going to be. And the NFL, I'm sure, brings in a shit ton more revenue than the NBA.
yeah, I'm
Oh,
sure they do.
100%.
But yeah, I wonder. So here's an interesting fact and I don't know how accurate this is. I'm going to assume it's somewhat accurate. So it says in the last 30 years, the average salary of the NFL coach has increased from 300,000 to over 6 million. And of course, it says wins are often on the field are often a direct line to higher paydays. Of
I,
course, that makes sense. If you win, you're going to get paid better.
what was the time frame for that?
30 years.
I would say yeah. I
It
would say
sounds
that's
about right
that's
when they give that time frame.
I would say that's
But it
pretty pretty accurate.
which would make sense with the longer the NFL has come along, the more it's become a viable product, the more that they're paying to advertise on there and have all kinds of different things that would increase the ability for owners to pay coaches higher salaries.
So in the
To not only
NFL, they have 9 coaches who make over $10 million a year. And then the lowest paid coaches are Jared Mayo for the Patriots, 3.5 million. Mike McDaniel, sorry. He only makes 3.5 million a year. That's a little surprised me.
Where does he
And
coach?
Miami.
Oh, okay. I was going to say
Yeah, he's the little
Gerard
nerdy
Mayo is a first
nerdy
year.
dude.
Well, no, I was just going to say Gerard Mayo is a first year coach,
Yeah.
and
And
I
then
thought
the
what did see I couldn't I can't remember the name of the guy who coaches the Seahawks right now. So I was like, I thought that's what I thought you were saying. I was going to say, well, he's another first year coach too. So
oh yeah, Mike. That's why. Yeah, he makes where I just had it. He makes 9 million a year,
hmm.
and then
Well, as
He's
they
got a
say,
good
it's
team.
nice work if you can get it.
Kevin Stefanski from Cleveland makes 3.5, and then you have like
That one because he's not a first year coach. That one I will say that's because the franchise blows.
yeah. So then the
Like
next
and I'm not saying that just and I'm not saying it be based upon like their on-field results or anything like that. I'm saying because I think the Browns have been notorious for paying lower salaries than most other franchises.
So the top 10, like Mike McDowell from Seattle makes 9 million a year. Doug Peterson, Jacksonville, 8.5. Sirianni, the Eagles, 7 million. Matt LaFleur from Green Bay only makes 6 million a year. That kind of surprised me. Zach Taylor, Cincinnati, 4.5. Dan Quinn, Commanders, 4.5. Mike McCarthy, Dallas, 4. Yeah. He's not paying his coach big time money down there in the big D or the little D these days this season. And Raheem Morris from Atlanta makes 4 million.
And I
Yeah.
think he's in his first year again. I mean, he's been a coach previously, but
So it's very interesting. Like I said, you hear so much about these college coaches and how much they are getting, how much their salary is going to be, um, for these different schools and stuff like that. And it just made me think, our NFL and our pro coaches getting compensated the same way. And I was like, I wonder if they are. And I never actually looked it up, so I was like, let's look it up since we're talking about this, talking about sports and stuff. Let's talk about this. Let's see how much they're getting paid. The one thing I will definitely say is that coaches in the um, MLB definitely do not get highly compensated. They are not.
No, they're the
They
lowest
are like
paid.
the least paid coaches of all time.
which sport?
I had to look at the NHL coaches, but
I was
the
gonna say something tells me MLB managers get paid more than NHL coaches, but maybe not.
so the highest paid MLB coach right now is Craig Counsell from the Cubs. He gets paid 8 million a year. Second is Tori Lavulo from Arizona Diamondbacks. He makes 5. Bruce Bochy makes 4.5. Ron Washington, Steve Voigt from Cleveland, Bob Melvin from San Francisco, Mike Schilt from San Diego, and Brian Snitker from
Becker.
Atlanta all make 4 million. And then Dave Martinez, Washington, 3.5. Aaron Boone, Yankees, 3.3. Dave Roberts from the Dodgers, 3.25. Alex Cora, Boston, 3. Kevin Cash.
Think about that real quick. How the managers of the two teams that were just in the World Series are like they have about like 10 people ahead of them in terms of salary.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then like
And they play
um
for two huge market and they manage two huge market teams, so
yeah, that's the part that's baffles me. Kevin Cash, Tampa Bay, 1.66.
I
Derek
mean, it wouldn't surprise me if he's like the one of the lowest paid because it's Tampa. So like
um
I'm
Der
sure Mark Kotsay of
I'll
Oakland
be
is
right back,
um,
guys.
and I'm sure that
De-
Mark Kotsay of Oakland is also on the low end.
um Derek Shelton, Pittsburgh,
Yeah, I would definitely expect him to be on the low end.
1.5. Carlos Mendoza from the Mets, 1.5, and AJ Hinch from Detroit, 1.2.
That's interesting. Hinch, Detroit, no matter what they want to say, is a bigger market team. They don't always act like it. Hinch might only be getting paid that much though because he was kind of disgraced after the Astros scandal. So maybe he just like took what they would give him. And
Now,
Mendoza was a first year manager with the Mets, but again, it's like that seems low for the Mets.
now
Um,
these lists I'm reading off to you are only the top 20. Like, so AJ Hinch is 20th
oh,
with 1.2. So imagine the other teams are all below, all the other managers are being paid below 1.2 million a year.
well, hold on a second. Let's give me that whole list of the 20. Just give
Well,
me their teams.
Oh, okay, yeah, hold on. Let me go back. So we got Cubs, Diamondbacks, Rangers, Angels, Guardians, Giants, Padres, Braves, Nationals, Yankees, Dodgers, Red Sox, Tampa Bay, Pittsburgh, Mets, and Tigers.
Well, that's only 16.
Oh, said top 20, but the end list is 16. Okay. But all those other teams are
The
all
eerie
below
silence.
1.2. Yeah,
Well,
yeah, no.
I, it's funny. I mean, baseball definitely doesn't have the revenue that NFL does, and probably not that NBA does. They
I don't
probably
think
don't have
Well,
the,
I don't think they have the revenue. They definitely don't have the revenue of the NFL, and they probably don't have the revenue of the NBA.
but
but the revenue's
which makes
still
it,
pretty good.
yeah, the revenue is still pretty good. The thing that's interesting about it is if we look at player salaries from the MLB compared to NFL and NBA, player salaries in the MLB, at least for the top tier players, is astronomical compared to most NFL and NBA players.
Well, that's because the NBA and the NFL have a salary cap, and MLB doesn't. As much as
Right.
they want to, as much as the owners have been treating the luxury tax like a salary cap in so many ways, it's not. So you can still
No.
pay Juan Soto $765 million.
Right.
So, real quick, so again, so those are the top 16 MLB manager salaries. So here are the teams that are in the bottom 14: Baltimore, Toronto, which is kind of inexcusable because Toronto's got more money than anybody because they're owned by Rogers. But their manager he was a first-time manager when he was hired. The White Sox, we all know why that is.
Hmm.
Kansas City, who's one of the smaller market teams.
I had the NHL
And,
list up here too.
yeah, and Minnesota, who's also always acts like one of the smaller market teams, even though I'm not sure they always are. The A's, can't say Oakland anymore, who obviously are claim to be one of the poorest teams in the league.
Where are they? They're just the A's of nowhere.
They're just the Athletics right now.
Yeah.
No city name. They're the opposite of Utah in hockey, who are just the Utah Hockey Club right now. They don't actually have a nickname. So anyway,
We're the A's of
yeah,
nowhere.
yeah.
We play wherever we want to.
So the
Roam
A's,
from city to city.
Houston, which is pretty ridiculous because they're a big market team. But
Hmm.
again, Joe Espada was a first-time manager when he was hired, and Seattle, which again, even though they're owned by very rich people, claims to be mid to small market. Philadelphia, but again, Rob Thompson like inherited, was given the job mid-season, even though they went to the World Series, but still, Philadelphia is a huge market.
Hmm.
Miami, which again, we know the Marlins don't pay anybody anything.
No.
Milwaukee, small market. St. Louis, somewhat surprising, and Cincinnati, which is a little bit of a smaller market too. And then the last one is Colorado, which again, Denver's a big market, but the Rockies are a horrible franchise.
So the top paying NHL coach makes 5.5 million a year.
Okay. And we said there was only one MLB manager who got paid more than that.
Yeah,
I
the
think you
first
said
guy you said
Council
was
was first with eight
was eight
million, and
million.
I think you said the second guy was at 5.
Yep. So only one MLB coach makes more than that. So the top 14 for NHL, Mike Sullivan from Pittsburgh, 5.5. John Cooper, Tampa Bay, 5.3. Your Rangers head coach, Peter,
Laviolette.
yeah, he makes 4.9.
He
Colorado's
ain't
coach,
earning that right now.
Colorado's coach makes 4.9. Vegas Knights 4.5. Dallas Stars 4.25. The Flyers coach makes 4. The Panthers coach makes 3.9. Toronto's coach makes 3.5. Montreal 2.9. Vancouver 2.75. Carolina, Brittamore makes 2 million. Edmonton's coach makes 2, and Boston Bruins coach makes 1.9.
That sounds like it's still on the average higher than the MLB guys you mentioned.
Yeah, probably for the most part. I did find a list here too for college coaches, I think. Or no, this might not be what I thought it was. Oh, no, I think it is. Oh, maybe not. Ryan Day gets paid $10 million plus a max bonus of 1.55 million. Do you know what drives me? You know what baffles me? This is why college coaches get a shit ton of money. Look at their buyouts. I just had this up. I'm gonna use Ryan Day. So his total pay is 10 million. Max bonus of 1.55 million. He has a buyout of $37.276 million. Insane. You know why Dabo's still on here? He makes 11 million, gets 1.5 million. His buyout's 60 million. He's gonna make bank. Kirby Smart, get a load of this. Total pay, 13.28 million. Max bonus, 1.775 million. Guess how much his buyout is?
2 million.
$118 million.
Because that's how long he signed for.
Yeah. Crazy.
Well, yeah, we've seen more than a few instances over the last several years where a college has fired their coach, and there was a big story about
A buyout.
blah 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 just got paid $60 million to not coach the team. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that is embarrassing. But you know who that's embarrassing for? Not the stupid bastard who just got fired. It's embarrassing to the school. Because now that they not only have to pay that much money, they have to go pay a shit ton of money to go get somebody else to actually coach.
Yeah. Speaking of coaches, did you hear about Marshall losing over 25 players to the transfer portal?
That's awesome. The transfer portal is so abused anymore.
So
see, here's the thing. I don't want to criticize guys for taking advantage of the system that's in place. I think you should stay and play the goddamn bowl game.
well, here's the thing. They need to change the dates of this transfer. This early transfer portal bullshit, like
Yeah.
it has to happen after bowl season. Like
There has to be a way to revise this where it doesn't fucking
Yes.
Yeah, so Marshall's like withdrew from playing in the Independence Bowl against Army, who somehow lost to Navy yesterday.
Yeah, wow. So yeah,
So now Louisiana Tech is taking their place.
So the story behind this is Charles Huff, who was the coach of Marshall. The kids love this guy. I think they were like 6-6 or something like that. I think Marshall's record is. You can check me on that, Pat, if you don't mind. But the kids love this coach. He's a player's coach. He's a coach's coach. But they were upset that they didn't renew his contract because it was his last year of his contract. They didn't renew it. So what the kids did is that they all entered the transfer portal. They're all leaving the school. Majority of them are leaving the school.
So basically, they gave a big middle finger to the school.
Yeah, they really did. And the incoming coach was trying to keep enough of the players on the squad to at least have a bowl game. And they were like, no. The kids are legitimately telling the school, fuck you. And all majority of them entered the transfer portal. Now this new head coach. Feel bad for him because he's coming into a shitty situation, not amongst some, something he created. But at the end of the day, he's got to start all over. But it's quite interesting. These kids are hell bent, and I guess some of these kids are waiting to see if Charles Huff lands at another school, because if he does, that's pretty much where it looks like a lot of these kids might be trying to go to. They're going to try to follow the coach if he ends up getting another gig.
Yeah. Marshall finished 10-3.
Oh, they finished 10-3?
And went to the Sun Belt Conference title game. And won the Sun Belt Conference title game. And they were going to play Army on December 28th in the Independence Bowl. Army, of course, won the American Conference.
Oh, I had 6-6 in my head because of them having to pick a replacement. My fault. That's my bad.
So that should have been a good matchup theoretically, because it's like two of the champions of two of the Group of Five conferences, and probably the two best Group of Five conferences, or whatever the fuck they're called now, because the Pac-12 being not really a conference right now. Marshall coach Charles Huff left for the same post at Southern Miss a day after the Sun Belt title game, after being unable to reach an agreement with the school on a new contract. The Herd quickly hired NC State defensive coordinator Tony Gibson as Huff's replacement. As of Saturday morning, Marshall has 36 players in the transfer portal, including 29 scholarship and 17 players in the team's two-deep setup for the Sun Belt title game.
Oof.
The thing and Louisiana Tech has a 5-7 team, because every team that was 6-6 and better, I think, qualified for bowl games and was where the playoff and was in one.
Yeah, that's where I messed up with the 6-6.
Yeah,
that was my fault.
yeah.
Sorry. So they had to go to a 5-7 team to find a replacement.
Here's what also is kind of should be like a big kick in the ball sack. Southern Miss is another team in the Sun Belt, so same conference. Southern Miss was horrible this year. They went 1-11, with their only win being over Southeast Louisiana. It was an FCS team. They went 0-8 in their conference. Marshall beat them 37-3. Most of their games were blowouts. They lost 31-0, 49-24, 44-7, 23-13, 38-21, 44-28, 32-15, 37-3, 58-3, 35-14, 52-20. So their closest loss was 10 points. And your coach, who just took you to a 10-3 season and a conference championship, decided to go there because they were willing to pay him, evidently. Now let's see if he can actually turn that school around and everything. But, dude.
Oh, so that's where he did go. Okay.
Yeah.
So I didn't see that part of the story yet. So
those
dude, kids are his whole Marshall team is probably going to transfer that school.
Yeah. So, dude, I don't care if you had a good reason to not pay him what he wanted or this, that, or the other thing, but you got huge egg on your face now.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't pay your coach who took you to a pretty good season, and now he went to the dreg of your own conference. And then you're losing half your team to the point where you couldn't even go play in the goddamn bowl game then. That's a major embarrassment for that school.
Yeah.
But you know what they say? Almost heaven, West Virginia.
What?
My horrible singing.
What is so? Here's what I need to. He's only been there, but this was his 4th year there too.
I was going to say, chances are, considering it's Marshall and so many non-Power 5 schools are stepping stones or way stations, I was going to say, I'm imagining he's probably not been there that long.
So his first year with Marshall, he went 7-6, 5-3 in the conference.
Oh, he used to be a coach at Penn State.
Yeah. That's what the name.
He was Penn State's running back and special teams coach from 2014 to 2017. He's younger than me, damn it, which means he's younger than you guys too.
Yeah. They lost lost in a bowl game. First year they lost in a bowl game, their bowl game. Year 2, 9-4, 5-3 in conference, went to another bowl game, they won. Third year,
they won the Myrtle Beach Bowl.
Yeah. Third year, a little down. 6-7, 3-5 at conference, but they still went to a bowl game.
Yeah,
because they were six
they
and
were 6 and 6.
six,
Yeah.
so they lost in the that bowl game, and then this year 10-3, 7-1, and should have went to another, been in a bowl, the Independence Bowl, but yeah, that's not happening. I mean, he was 32-20 overall, three winning seasons, 20 and 12 in conference was really good. Um, so yeah, he's
Yeah,
that's
he had
that's a good 4 years at a college like Marshall.
yeah, he had winning records in the conference 3 out of the 4 years. And they were in Conference USA his first year, and then they moved to the Sun Belt, which I don't quite understand how a team from West Virginia is in the Sun Belt. But again, explain to me how two teams from California are in the ACC anymore. So so the geography part of course, is out of it. But yeah, it's like
And he won a conference title. You know what I mean? Like he's
I'm sorry, it's an absolute embarrassment for Marshall.
yeah, no,
Agreed.
it is. It is 100%. That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, his Wikipedia page about his time at Penn State mentions during his time at Penn State, he played a crucial role in the recruitment and development of running back Saquon Barkley.
I mean, he was a running
Which,
backs coach at Alabama for 2 years too.
yeah, which I mean, yeah, if he's the running back coach at Penn State, then yeah, he would had to have been part of the recruitment of a running back. So
Yeah, yeah. But no, I mean, yeah, talk about that. Yeah, it's not a good look. Not a good look. But
These are the things that happen, though. These
yeah,
are the
it's
things.
it's crazy. It's kind of like,
these are the times that try men's souls.
consistency is what you want out of your coach. And I'm sorry, like 4 years, three bowl games, a conference championship, you know, an above 500 conference record, a good one too. So it's a little mind-boggling, but it's college football. These colleges sometimes don't know if they're coming or they're going and can't get out of their own goddamn way. So,
Well, the old saying, you reap what you sow, and they are going to reap what they sowed.
and
So
believe me, down here right now, it's Belichick mania.
Oh God.
I saw that he made an appearance at the North Carolina basketball game yesterday.
He did. He did. It's been all over the news every single day. Not that I mean, listen, I live in North Carolina. I live in the Tech Triangle area, or wherever the hell they call it. Like, listen, I got Duke here, I got North Carolina here, and I got NC State over here. So I'm like, I literally live within 30 minutes of all three of those colleges. So
Clowns to the left of you, jokers to the right.
yeah, pretty
Here
much.
I am stuck
Stuck.
in the middle with you.
But yeah, it's all the craze. Belichick's a Belichick's a Tar Heel. Hey, listen, it is what it is.
Yeah, since I started singing "Stuck in the Middle with You," the one trivia night I went to this past week, they had a round where they were playing songs and they said, name the artist. And the first song that came on was "Stuck in the Middle with You," and my sister couldn't remember who it was, and I'm like, it's Steeler's Wheel. But when it came on, I immediately wanted to get up and start dancing and then go cut somebody's ear off.
As
Oh,
long as you're not
wow.
biting it off.
Well, because Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious too. Like one fan was like, "Yeah, this could be great." He goes, "But I'm just worried about how much the ticket prices are going to go up next year."
mm, I'd be more worried about can he do it, because we've seen other coaches who were. Now, I'm not talking about like Nick Saban here, because he was a college coach first before he went to the NFL and failed. Or other guys,
Miserably.
or other guys of that ilk. Pete Carroll is like an exception. He was a pro coach, failed, went to college, had success, and then went and actually had success as a pro coach again. But a lot of guys who were like pro coaches who then like tried to go to college, it didn't work. Like Herman Edwards,
Lovey
Lovie
Smith.
Smith, a few others who I'm just not remembering right now, but I know they're there.
Yeah.
Um, so, and the other problem, of course, is that, well, frankly, Belichick's old.
Yeah, he's 72. Yeah.
If guys around the same age as him, like Nick Saban, are whining about the way the college game is now, this, that, and the other thing, um, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to work for Belichick. So, I was also
We'll
going to
see.
throw, I was also going to throw Forrest Gregg in there as a guy who was a pro coach. He was, of course, a great player for the Packers in the '60s, and then he became a coach. He was with the Browns, then the Bengals, then the Packers. He took the Bengals to their first Super Bowl in 1981, and then he went to go coach in college. But he was coaching SMU, and SMU was trying to just field the team after the death penalty. He was there for 2 years, and they went 3-19. Uh,
Oof.
it wasn't his fault, of course, but it's like
Yeah.
I just wanted to tie that back into since we were talking about SMU and the death penalty.
Yeah, that was a good tie-in because that's oof, oof, Lord.
All right. So I got to share something with you guys that I found the other day that I thought was
I don't want
absolutely
to hear
hilarious.
about it.
Oh, whatever. But I need to share on here. Oh, there we go. Thank you, senor.
As
Oh,
soon as
also,
as soon as you said I wanted to share something with you fellas, I'm like, all right, let me click.
also, just real quick, another reason why Forrest Gregg probably agreed to coach at SMU like that is because he had also gone to SMU. Just
Gotcha,
wanted to
gotcha.
throw that out there.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
All right.
Don't mess it up now. No technical
I hope it
difficulties.
doesn't get messed up. Let's see.
Share
Let's see if it's
with
coming through.
audio, remember.
Oh, just a sec. Let me make sure I'm sharing properly. Okay. Share sound via cable. Yes. Okay.
I'll let you know if it's not right.
All right. Can you guys hear that?
No.
This isn't
Where
what I want
was
to
the
share.
charge? Try
Can you hear it
boost.
though?
Nope.
No, I didn't hear anything.
Can you hear that yet?
Nope. Can you hear
No?
me?
All right. Let me take a minute.
So,
I don't know where the charge is though.
so they,
I
so
will
they
say
called,
that.
so they called the charge on the guy who made the pass.
Yes, they called the charge on the guy who made the pass, but that's not what I wanted to share. I wanted to share you guys the Mike Tyson thing.
Rocky Four,
Uh,
but with Mike
the
Tyson's
Rocky.
Punch Out theme music.
Yes, it
We,
is absolutely freaking hilarious. And
I see King Hippo, and that's all I care about.
I
Boom,
back to the
boom,
basketball thing though,
boom.
that's some bullshit.
That was yeah, it just I know they've changed the rules about what is a charge and this and that so many times.
That's
The
horrendous.
the, the, the kid who took it was very obviously not set, and he also pretty obviously flopped.
And he didn't really even beat him to the spot either.
No, he didn't. So they got there
Yeah,
at
it
the
was
same
bad.
time at best.
It was horrible.
okay. Oh, now I gotta find it again. Darn it. Where was that reel? Oh, so sad. It makes me upset. Deedle 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 deed.
Little late.
All right. Well, we'll do this. I'll stop sharing. I'll find it on TikTok. It'll be easier to find on TikTok.
So while he's doing that, just
Yes.
because again we were talking about SMU, this is on Forrest Gregg's Wikipedia page.
Oh no.
So the, originally SMU's 1987 season was canceled, but the school decided to cancel their 1988 season as well. So his 2 years as coach were 1989 and 1990. As it turned out, when Gregg arrived, he was presented with a severely undersized and underweight roster composed mostly of freshmen. Gregg was taller and heavier than nearly the entire 70-man squad,
Oh my
and
God.
and he was 55 at the time.
So these offensive linemen were like what, 6'2", weighing a buck 90.
The team was so short on offensive linemen that Greg had to make several wide receivers bulk up and switch to the line.
Oh my God.
By nearly all accounts, it would have been unthinkable for the Mustangs to return for the 1988 season under such conditions. So that's why they also agreed to cancel their 1988 season. And then in
Oh,
1989, they got beat by Houston 95-21. Andre Ware threw 6 touchdowns in the first half. David Klingler's threw 4 in the second half, even with the game all out of reach. And Greg refused to shake Houston coach Jack Party's hand afterwards. So, yeah, because that is embarrassing. I don't know how you allow your team to go out there and score 95 points against a team that's obviously outmanned.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's see if I'm hoping that this works. It says I'm sharing sound. You're sharing sound from your computer. I don't want to share sound from my computer. I want to share sound from my device. Oh, okay. It's okay. Let's see what happens here. This shit's so funny.
That is hilarious. Oh my God, that's great.
Just wait. We gotta wait till we get to the intermission. That little Max stuff when, when the
This
coach
is
is talking to him.
This is great.
And it's not super long, but this is really funny stuff.
Oh, I heard you got the star punch.
You got the star.
After the bell.
Oh. Oh, this is so great.
I don't know who did this, but it was absolutely fantastic the first time I saw it. Like, this is awesome.
It's like so on point too. That's the great part.
I wonder how long it took to record this to get all the sounds perfect.
Yeah. All right.
Oh my God, that old stuff is great sometimes. That was perfect.
I was trying to explain this to my daughter yesterday, my older daughter, who's 26. And I go, have either of you ever played Mike Tyson's Punch Out? I was talking to her and her boyfriend. And they're like, no. I was like, really? Never played Mike Tyson's Punch Out at all? Ever? They're like, Dad, we didn't have those games. I'm like, I know, but maybe through, VR systems, not VR systems, but,
The
emulators.
emulators.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And then I said, have you ever seen Rocky 4 with Ivan Drago? And they're both like, no. I'm like, oh my God. Like, my daughter and her boyfriend really need to get out there and see some old movies. But yeah, like, if you know anything about Mike Tyson's Punch Out, if you're old like us, and Mike Tyson's Punch Out and freaking Rocky 4, that is just absolutely fantastic that somebody was able to think about that and then put all those sounds in the right spots and stuff like that. And the fact that, what was it, Doc's his coach, his ringside coach, and Little Mac with the
That
talking to
is
his mouth.
so great.
And it's funny, and seeing those parts, I can see that I know that exact moment where, and I can't remember the gentleman's name in the movie that's his ring coach because it was Apollo Creed's ring coach. or ring manager, whatever their official title is. But he's like, you see, he's not. He is human. He bleeds just like you. You could beat him. Like I could see, like I can like picture the words coming out of his mouth, like exactly what he's talking about in that moment because I've seen that movie so many times. But yeah,
Oh, that's great. That is funny. Oh, that was a great video.
You know, it's always made me wonder, why have they never done a 30 for 30 on that fight?
speaking of 30 for
The
30s,
reason
and since we
is,
were
just real quick, the reason I'm saying that is because I believe I saw an interview with Bill Simmons years ago when he was still with ESPN and involved in with the 30 for 30 thing, that he pitched doing a 30 for 30 on that, but like nobody got it. And I'm like, well, yeah, because you were tackling a lot of like really serious subjects, and now you wanted to do like a basically a parodic one.
Yeah.
I can understand why people wouldn't go for it.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's funny though.
So thinking about 30 for 30s, and I was hoping we'd get a chance to talk about this. We were talking a lot about football, college football particularly, but this goes into the NFL football.
Ooh, I know
And
where you're going.
the 30 for 30 that was recently released on the New York Sack Exchange. Did either of you see that or
I didn't
hear of
see
it?
it. I didn't see it because I don't care.
He's a Giants fan.
That's one reason. That's one reason I will not deny. But I've heard about what I think you're going to talk about.
I did not watch the 30 for 30 as of yet, but I did see the extended video of that situation that you're probably going to bring up.
Well, yeah, and it's just it's it's interesting. Like the four guys that this was about, because this was in the era of giving defensive lines like a name, in that, there was the Steel Curtain, there was the Purple People Eaters, there was all these different teams that had these like really good defensive lines, and they were giving names to them,
Yeah,
and they had a
it was kind of
contest.
on the tail end of that time frame,
Yes,
but part of it's definitely.
yeah, but so they had a contest to name the four guys that were part of the defensive line for the New York Jets, and it was Marty Lyons, Abdul Salim, Joe Klecko, and Mark Gastineau,
Mhm.
and they called them the New York Sack Exchange.
This is an
And they were
allusion, of
actually a
course,
really
to
good
the New York.
defensive line.
Yeah, and it's an allusion to the New York Stock Exchange. So
Yeah.
Right. And it was very interesting. Um, these guys, the only person that actually liked Mark Gastineau from what I was getting out of this 30 for 30 was Abdul Salim, or Salam, sorry, Salam. Um, and that's because he was like this peacemaker of the team. Like he had to keep both sides, all the guys working together, and he was the one of the few guys that he was the only guy that was willing to. I don't just want to say willing to do that, but seem able to do that, keep them at peace. Because Mark Gastineau has a big chip on his shoulder. He swears like he is like the greatest all defensive lineman to ever sack quarterbacks ever. Like everybody was jealous of me and blah blah blah. And it was interesting to hear him talk about something that happened in his childhood. Now, I don't know why you would wait for a 30 for 30 to say this publicly. Like that's a very weird spot to put this out there to the public, and I don't know, which made me feel like it was kind of fake and that maybe it didn't happen. He just said this, and I don't want to minimize anybody's childhood experiences because of what he shares in that. And I'll let you guys watch. I'm not going to announce it to the public myself. It's not my place. But
Yeah.
it seemed very faked to gain sympathy for him. Not to say that it didn't really happen, but it seemed faked. Um, so it was really, really weird in that aspect. Um, the other thing is he found religion. Now, in most religions, people are taught to forgive and let things go. But yet, he cannot let go of the fact that his teammates never had his back. His teammates were jealous of him. His teammates were this, his teammates were that. And then on top of it, he is hates Brett Favre because Brett Favre laid down. And most of us will say that Brett Favre laid down when that sack was coming, which most quarterbacks would do if they're going to get obliterated. Most quarterbacks will lay down. We saw Tom Brady do it a number of times,
Yeah.
so they don't get injured. So he like wouldn't even shake Tom Brady's hand to say, "Hey, nice to meet you." I can't believe you laid down. Like he approached it from an angry, bitter old person. Like it was very, very odd. This guy like seeks attention. He's an attention seeker. I don't care if he found religion or not. He's an attention seeker. He holds grudges. He's not a very good person, and you get that from the interviews of the other guys that were on the defensive line with him. Like they did not appreciate him. They
No.
thought he was a showboat. They thought he was all these things. He did. Which is fine. Yes, he started the sack dance before anybody else did. But I'm gonna put this out there, and you guys can hate me if you want to, and that's okay. But
I already hate you.
the
So
the shortened NFL season when they had the strike and they only played 12 games, Reggie
Oh
White had
yeah,
21 Reggie White had 21 sacks in 12 games. So if you want to go with an all-time season sack leader, I'm sorry, Michael Strahan, Mike Gastineau, we're not going to touch Reggie White's record because Reggie White, if they had played a full 16 games, was going to probably have 30 freaking sacks. But he got cut short because they had a 12-game season. He
yeah,
was at 1.75 sacks per game.
I was going to
That
say
is ridiculous.
White's got to have the record for sacks per game.
yeah.
Well, yeah, it's funny. I was talking to my dad about this the other day because being a Giants fan, not only do Giants fans not like the Jets, Giants fans, and of course we don't have much reason to do this right now, obviously, with the way our franchise is. But Giants fans will also, no, I'm serious though. Giants fans will also look down on the Jets and Jets fans.
Yeah, I get that.
So
Yeah.
there's always a sense that the Jets are inferior and always have been to the Giants, and throughout their histories, really that is the case. So when I was coming of age, Gastineau was still playing and he was on the Jets, and the Jets were one of the teams that I was taught to dislike the most right away. So I disliked him because he played for the Jets. The guy's obviously a head case, like you said. He's an attention seeker. So here's the thing. Technically, Gastineau never held that record because a guy named Al Baker for the Detroit Lions in 1978 had 23 sacks. The problem was sacks were not an official statistic
Stat.
until
Yeah.
1982.
Yeah.
So not only did Gastineau, there somebody who had more sacks in a single season than Gastineau. Deacon Jones also had 2 seasons of 22 sacks, which is as many as Gastineau had in 1984, which was the acknowledged record. Deacon Jones had 2 seasons of 22 sacks in 1964 and 1968. Now, let's go further. So yes, Strahan gets to 22 and a half in 2001 because Favre claimed that there was like a miscommunication between him and his line. He was running one play, they were running another. He goes and rolls out and sees Strahan coming for him. So yeah, he falls to the ground to avoid taking the hit, which is understandable. I don't know if I buy that story about a miscommunication. I think it may have been a setup so that
Yeah,
Strahan could get the
a lot of
record.
people believe that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm a Giants fan saying this. Okay, so, but in 2011, Jared Allen equaled Gastineau's record with 22 sacks. In 2014, Justin Houston equaled Gastineau's record with 22 sacks. And in 2021, TJ Watt equaled Strahan's record with 22 and a half sacks. So, Mark, no matter what Favre did or didn't do on that play back in 2001, you wouldn't have the record right now.
No.
Yeah.
And you technically never did.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm sorry. That's just the way it is.
You know,
And so hold on real quick. I'm sorry. There was an article on The Athletic about this on Wednesday saying former Jets defensive end Mark Gastineau remains upset about Brett Favre gifting Michael Strahan his record-breaking sack in 2001, and Favre says he understands why. I just posted a comment saying Gastineau was always a head case, and go look at some of his.
no, you spent
Tells about
18
his
months in
personal
jail.
Yeah. Yeah. So some guy replied to me, has nothing to do with his record. I
His
replied,
head,
it has everything to do with why he's getting on Favre's case. Technically, he never held the record to begin with, but even without that, he was passed by someone else in a subsequent year. But sure, get on Favre's case for taking a dive. Those glory days pass you by. Quoting Springsteen. He
Yeah,
replied to me again, says the guy who never had a glory day, jealousy. And I replied to him, yeah, I'm not going to be jealous of a guy who went to jail for hitting his wife,
No, no.
which he did.
Yep.
The guy replied one
well, and
last
he
time,
said at that point in time he was on steroids. Like he admitted to being on
no.
steroids.
When he went to jail for hitting his wife, it was about 10 years ago. It was
Oh,
not
was
because
it?
of an active player.
Oh, was one of the okay? Because he admitted to be on steroids as an active player.
Yeah, I know he did, but that's one other reason why it's a fucking head case. So I just said, yeah, I'm not going to be jealous of a guy who went to jail for hitting his wife. The guy replied one more time, keep telling yourself that.
That dude just ignorant.
At that point, you just have to walk away, which I did. I'm like, he's clearly just trying to get the last word in at this point because
Yeah.
he's not saying anything of substance and he's just saying shit that's really fucking stupid. I wanted to reply to
He's
him
probably
with
a Jets fan.
I wanted to reply to him by just saying, God damn, you're a fucking idiot, but I don't want to get in like fucking Facebook jail or anything. And again, he would just come back and reply and say something like, well,
Your typical troll, that's all it is. One of the things I still don't understand, when they were
I was
talking
trying to
about
figure out. I was trying to figure out how old this guy was because I can't tell from his picture. But it's just like, God damn it, go the fuck away.
one of the things I know they brought up with Gastineau is that I know Sachs was 82 and current, but they pulled like he had a season of 11 over 11 sacks, and then he had another season of 20 sacks, right? So it's one of those things where I feel like we have all this film of all these games, and we have all these records that are from the time of football starting till now. Why isn't that we can't go back? Because there's people who can do this. Go back. Let's look at how many sacks Deacon Jones had in a season as for his career, and I guarantee you he will be the sack leader
Well, I think
by
they did. I think they
by
did.
by a lot. They should just make that shit official. Like I think it's a tad bit ridiculous.
Deacon Jones, they do have sack numbers for his entire career from 1961 to 1974, and he has 173 and a half sacks according to their list, which is only third all time.
Someone had posted something where they went back and looked and it said he should have over 200
Give me
sacks.
one second.
Well,
I gotta yell at some kids that are on my trampoline.
Okay.
that'll be fun.
It's just
Yeah, it's hard to say because that's the thing. If you go to Pro Football Reference, there's an official list and there's an unofficial list, which
Mhm.
also only says since 1960. So I don't know what that means about pre-1960. Maybe there's not enough footage. I don't know. But the top two guys are the same on both. Bruce Smith, 200, Reggie White, 198. On third on the official list is Kevin Green with 160, followed by Julius Peppers with 159 and a half, and Chris Dolman with 150 and a half. You go over to the unofficial list. Deacon Jones is third with 173 and a half, which bumps Green to fourth, Peppers to fifth. Jack Youngblood is sixth with 151 and a half. I had no idea he had that many sacks in his career. And then
yeah.
Dolman's bumped down to seventh, and then eighth is Alan Page at 148 and a half. One of the other interesting things too is that Lawrence Taylor is tied for 14th on the official list with 132 and a half. He jumps up to ninth on the unofficial list with 142 because he had 9.5 sacks in his rookie year of 1981, which was the last year it was not an official stat. And then Michael Strahan is 10th on the unofficial list, whereas on the official list, he's sixth, followed by Jason Taylor, Terrell Suggs, DeMarcus Ware, and a tie between Richard Dent and John Randall. So
Yeah, that's just
it's very interesting.
yeah, like they should they just I don't know. They need to really take
Yeah,
take a look at that.
I guess this would be my
Because
question.
I guess like Deacon Jones, like I think one of the videos I saw, like he had 3 seasons of 20 plus sacks and like 4 or 5 seasons of or four maybe five, I don't remember, where he had like 15 plus sacks or something like that, over 15 sacks.
Yeah, so here's the only thing that I can think of as to why they don't make the pre 1982 stuff official. Either there's some way in which They don't think that they have footage to accurately say that's a sack or that's not a sack, which doubting is not really the case.
It can't be.
Because otherwise, how would they have these numbers for Deacon Jones and these other players from the 60s and 70s?
Yeah, it's common
Um,
sense.
but I think it might also have something to do with the rule changes. Deacon Jones was famous for a pass rush move, which is now illegal, the head slap.
Still though,
It was legal. It was legal then, and that's what he did to offensive linemen. He'd come up and then he would just whack right in the side of the fucking head. You can't do that now. You haven't been able to do that for a long time. That might be one reason why they don't want to make those stats official. I don't know, but it's a theory.
my argument to that for people who would say that would be, well, there was a lot of things offensive linemen were doing that were illegal to allow the running backs to open a hole back then.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
It's also
I think it's more of they don't want to waste the time and energy to go back and do it because I'm sure those unofficial lists are done by people that found.
Listen, there's stat guys
film
who
on
love
their
this
own.
shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the NFL Archives has all this shit. I mean, there's stuff. I feel like it's kind of like, let's give these players their due. Like, yes, he's a Hall of Famer. Yes, a lot of these guys back then are Hall of Famers, but let's get the proper stats out there.
And that was another one of Mark Gastineau's complaints. I'm not in the Hall of Fame. People ask me all the time, why are you not in the Hall of Fame?
And I'll tell you why he's not in the Hall of Fame. He was not a good enough player for a long enough period of time.
And he up and quit in the middle of, like, I don't want to say the height of his career, but he quit when he still had more years of playability. Like he just up and left.
He played from 1979 to 1988. So he had 2 seasons, which were
it's not even 10 years.
It is 10 years.
I guess technically.
No, it's 10 years. It's 10 seasons.
You said 79 to 88.
Right.
You got 80 in there.
You don't subtract 79 from 88 and come up with 9. It's 10 different.
Oh, that's right. The 80 year, I forgot. Yes. Yeah. So it's exactly 10 years, but
like his first season, he played in every game, only started 1, only had 2 sacks. His second season, 11 and a half sacks in all 16 games. Then, he played every game from 81 to 84. 82, of course, was only 9 games because of that strike. 85, he played every game. He only started 12 for some reason. But then 86, only played 10 games, started 7. 87, he was one of the few guys in the 87 season that crossed the picket line, which is another reason why I think a lot of people don't like him. Because not many NFL players crossed the picket line for those 3 bullshit games they played with the replacement players. And
his argument for that when he said about that, he's like,
needed the money.
Well, I didn't have any friends anyways, so I figured I might as well just go play.
Yeah. so he played all 15 games, started 7, and then in 88 he played and started 7 games, and that was it.
That's funny.
He made the Pro Bowl 5 times from 81 to 85. He was All-Pro first team 3 times from 82 to 84 and second team once in 81. And he finished in the top 7 of Defensive Player of the Year voting 4 times from 81 to 84. So he had a really great peak there, but it was really short. Yeah. And again, he wasn't well liked and this, that, and the other thing. And then I guess if you only want to take like his stats or this, that, or the other thing, they don't measure up to guys who are in the Hall of Fame, and they don't measure up to some guys who aren't in the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the main reason is, he wasn't real well liked. Like, okay, do you remember Albert Bell?
Yeah.
Yes.
Albert Bell was definitely, like, that term in baseball, most feared hitter, gets thrown around way too much. Albert Bell is definitely a guy who I would have thrown that label for. Not just because he was a great hitter when he was in his prime, but also because, he had like the incident where he like nailed the second baseman running and shit like that. But Albert Bell was a prick. Yep. Nobody fucking liked him. I don't think most of his teammates liked him. Nobody in the media liked him. He didn't like the media back. And he was a head case too. When he appeared on the Hall of Fame ballot, he got barely more than 5%. And his career ended very prematurely because of a hip injury. It was kind of similar to Bo Jackson's. So he couldn't like accumulate more stats like through like a normal decline period like most players do. So he was on the Hall of Fame ballot. He got barely more than 5% his first year. And then the second year he got under 5%. So then he was off the ballot. Will he ever be considered again by one of these veteran committees? Maybe. I think he might have been once, but he didn't get much votes because, again, he wasn't exactly well liked. But I see a lot of similarities between him and Mark Gastineau. I just don't know if Albert Bell's ever complained that he's not in the Hall of Fame. I don't know. He may have. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But
I think,
that's what I see a similarity to there.
yeah.
But yeah, I'm sorry, Mark Gastineau. If you wanted to be in the Hall of Fame, you should have been a better teammate. You should have maybe not done the steroids so your body wouldn't break down. And yeah, you obviously shouldn't have quit in the middle of the season.
Yeah, it was very interesting too. Like the year that he had the 22 sacks and got that record, the unofficial, I'll call it the unofficial record since um, we know there was guys before him that had more. They just didn't count the sacks yet. Um, he was pissed that he didn't get the Jets because evidently the team gave out their most valuable player award for that season, like on a team level. He didn't get it. The running back that year got it, who had a really good season too, according to his other teammates. Now didn't look up his stats, but he was pissed. He's like, "How could you not? I had an incredible season, 22 sack." Like, yeah, that's one stat.
What year
How
was
many
that?
actual 85, 84,
Let me look.
84 or 85?
84 he had that. So, okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, so yeah, look up the running back number 24 for the Jets.
Looking at
That
it
was
right
the
now.
running
That
back.
was Freeman McNeil
So
was the
evidently he
running
had a
back.
really evidently he had a really really good year that year
I'm
for
going to look
them.
at that up stat now.
Um,
So
but it's just
yeah.
it was very interesting to hear him complain about everything that he feels slighted on. Once again, going back to his look, uh, I need attention, I need attention, I need attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So some stuff from Gastineau's Wikipedia page about some subjects we've just briefly mentioned. In '87, Gastineau was the only Jet regular to immediately cross the picket line in that year player strike, citing his need to pay alimony. Teammate Dave Jennings said of this understandably unpopular move, "We expected it from Mark. He's always put himself in front of the team." The crossing brought to a head long-standing tensions between Gastineau and his teammates. He had never been popular in the locker room. Gastineau got into a fight with backup center Guy Bingham when he drove into the Jets complex early in the strike. Ironically, he was later joined in crossing the picket line by teammates Marty Lyons and Joe Klecko. I think Lawrence Taylor crossed the picket line for the last of the three replacement games, just like I think I have vague memories of that. So here's the thing then about 1988. Gastineau led the AFC in sacks 7 weeks into the 1988 season. He then abruptly announced his retirement soon after Bridget Nielsen, hey, Rocky Four,
Yep.
to whom he had previously announced his engagement, claimed to be suffering from cancer of the uterus, which, if that's true, ugh.
Yeah.
The announcement was followed by a surge of investigation by local New York papers of whether she was telling the truth, reflecting citywide mistrust of Gastineau. So that's the
Yeah,
whole
because he
thing.
used that for some. Yeah,
He was
he
using
was.
that for sympathy and an excuse to quit. And it's like, are you being honest with us? So yeah.
Yeah.
This is also kind of funny then too. There's a group out there called the Professional Football Researchers Association. Um, a couple years ago, they named Gastineau to their Hall of Very Good class.
Oh, very good class. That's funny.
Now,
Because one of the things that his teammates said
You're on
that
our very good
unless it
list.
was a sack, he wasn't trying to tackle anybody unless it was a sack.
so they have
That's a
been
very terrible thing.
so this
Yeah.
group has been doing this since 2013.
Oh
Um,
boy.
and a lot of the guys, well, not a lot, but a fair number of guys who they have named to their Hall of Very Good classes every year
Hmm.
have subsequently been inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame through the various like veteran or seniors committee as they call it in the NFL,
Okay.
or like contributor or coaches commitments or anything. And I think the reason this group does that is to maybe sometimes remind the Pro Football Hall of Fame people, look at these people too when you're doing your senior nominations and shit like that. So
Makes sense. I get it.
yeah, so like the most recent guy that they put in that Hall of Very Good thing that's subsequently been inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame. Ironically, once again, Gastineau's teammate Joe Klecko. He
Yeah,
was
Gast. Yeah, Klecko was inducted not too
he
long
was
ago.
named to the Hall of Very Good thing in 2016, and he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It was just a couple years ago, and for some reason his Wikipedia page isn't telling me exactly what year. Just 2 years ago, 2023.
Yeah, and
And I
it's
say
very
2 years ago
interesting.
because like
Like,
the next group of nominees is 2025. Now Sterling Sharp was named into that Hall of Very Good organization in 2020. He's one of the three senior nominees this year for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So he
yeah, it's
could,
it's
break that record then, as it were.
the other thing that's mentioned in that 30 for 30, and I thought this was very odd, just as far as an organization goes. Um, the head coach for the Jets was suddenly let go. Um, I forget what year it was. Um, but he was suddenly let go. The new coach comes in and immediately gets rid of Rahman,
Raheem.
uh, Raheem, and
Wasn't it Salim?
Mhm.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I
Abdul
don't remember. I don't
Salam.
remember it either, but
Abdul
that's what
Salam. There we go. Sorry, I keep messing up his name. And unfortunately, that guy passed away recently too. Um,
Oh, okay.
but yeah, it was just this year he passed away. But they immediately let him go. He never found another team to play for. His NFL career was over. I think Joe Klecko was traded to Indianapolis that same year, and he played 1 year in Indianapolis and quit and retired. Like they essentially that coach came in, dismantled the entire defensive line that was like so prominent for that team. And I'm like, why would you do that? Like, why would you just go in there and dismantle the one thing? Maybe he didn't want to deal with the drama that came from that defensive line. Like, I get it, but
He
Yeah.
probably didn't because he knew the story of everything.
So Abdul Salam, I think it's actually pronounced, if I'm just going off the spelling. Um, he was with the Jets from 1976 to 1983, and you're right, he passed away 2 months ago at the age of 71.
Oof.
The only game Salam appeared for the Jets in the 1980s, and the Jets lost in the 1982 AFC Championship game to the Dolphins. Uh, Again, bullshit season, but the only game Salam appeared for the Jets in 1983 was the final game of the season, a 34-14 loss to the Dolphins in Miami that brought the Jets' record to 7-9. Following the season, he was traded with Kenny Neal to the Chargers for a 1984 second-round pick, but neither player ever made an appearance with his new team.
Oof. Damn.
So that's weird. Uh, Joe Klecko played with the Jets from 77 to 87 and then played one last year for the Colts in 1988. Gastineau, as we said, quit in 1988. Marty Lyons played from 1979 to 1990, all with the Jets.
So they kept Marty Lyons. That was it.
Well,
they
they,
didn't get rid of Mark. Mark left
they
them.
I was gonna say they didn't get rid of Gastineau either. Yeah.
Yeah, true, but
And
Yeah.
Marty Lyons, through the whole thing, is one of the few people that like admitted that he went to bat for Mark. Maybe he didn't directly go to Mark and say, "I'm going to bat for you," but he like did some things like he jumped the line early to support Mark. Like he did some things that throughout his career that he felt were supportive of what Mark and trying to do that. So he found it very interesting to hear some of the things, because they always share like, oh, well, Mark said this during his portion of the interview. He's like, oh, if he said that, well, then Mark, you're a selfish bastard. Now he didn't say selfish bastard, but he's just like, you're selfish, and you always have been selfish. Like, just
Yeah.
once again, just goes to show you the kind of attitude and mentality that certain people have about
Mhm.
themselves.
Wikipedia, on the Wikipedia page for the New York Sack Exchange, says the prowess of the New York Sack Exchange and Giants rookie linebacker Lawrence Taylor caused the NFL to start counting sacks as a statistic, and their citation for that is a New York Times article from 2006, which I don't know if that would be accessible or not,
it's
but
still weird. Like that was like one stat that wasn't tracked, up until like that time. That's kind of just so
the
odd.
article is accessible, but only if you have a subscription.
Of course.
Subscribe to read our articles.
So, well, all I'm saying is I can't see what that article says to make
Yeah.
it like, prove that that's why they did it. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed.
Why was
Yeah.
Klecko traded to the Colts? I mean, he was definitely towards the tail end of his career.
Well, yeah, that guy played on a torn patella tendon.
Klecko spent the 86-87 offseason recovering from knee surgery. The knee hadn't fully healed by the start of the 87 season. He was limited to 7 games. After the season, the Jets released Klecko. He played one more season with the Colts, and following that season, he retired due to chronic knee problems,
Yeah.
Well,
which, of
and-
course, is the all too common price you pay for playing in the NFL.
yeah.
So,
Especially
Well,
at
and
that time.
you can see like they're showing the segment where he tore his patella tendon, and you can see it like his foot is turned out, like he's walking with his foot like essentially like how people say people have duck feet. He's walking one foot the normal way and the other foot's like a duck. I'm like, oh man, that dude's leg is screwed up.
and you're right, that coaching change could have had something to do with it. The Jets were coached by a guy named Walt Michaels from 1977 to 1982, and he left after the 82 season. I don't know the reason why. And then Joe Walton came in as the coach in 1983, and he coached the Jets through 1989. So yeah, I don't know. Well, Walton was the Jets offensive coordinator in 1981 and 1982. So maybe he had a personality conflict with Salam, which, precipitated to that trade. I don't know if they said in that special or not.
Yeah, no, they didn't say.
Could have
Yeah.
been a multitude of things. You never know.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, like, there's
He could have been just a straight up racist. Who knows?
really hope not. But I'm just saying, like, when new coaches come in, there will be like, there's always going to be that thing with like certain players. Yeah, I can't coach him. I can't work with him. Every coach will always do that. Every coach will bring their favorites. I mean, one of the prime examples of that is how many Miami players came to the Cowboys when Jimmy Johnson took over.
Mhm.
So
Well,
and it
look at what
mentions
freaking
that-
geez, why can't I think of his name? The guy that came into the Eagles from college.
Chip Kelly.
Yeah, Chip Kelly. Look at how many guys Chip Kelly was like, yep, this guy's going to be gone. This guy's going to be gone because he didn't like their attitudes.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, and the reason Walt Michaels, the previous coach of the Jets, was not the coach anymore after guiding the team to the conference championship game, he unexpectedly resigned, citing a need for a break from football. He had been under severe emotional strain during the last weeks of the 1982 regular season, taking time each week to visit his terminally ill mother in Pennsylvania. And reportedly, owner Leon Hess, who was an asshole, pressured Michaels into resigning due to his tiring of Michaels and his temper problem, which included an outburst on the flight out of Miami with the team president and a shoving match at LaGuardia Airport with a bus driver.
Yeah, and that's what the players said. Like when they were interviewing those guys, they're like, he was not, he was forced out. Like he didn't retire on his own. He didn't step down on his own. He was forced out of the organization.
Well, that was
They-
okay because Michaels did become the head coach then for the New Jersey Generals in the USFL, which of course means that he worked for Donald Trump.
Yes, and that's it. And that's another thing. Like, just to, I don't need to plead a case for Reggie White. Reggie White is who he is, and he was what he was. But what would Reggie White's sack record look like if he didn't play those first couple years in the USFL?
Well, yeah,
Like,
he
and
would
played in the
definitely- he would
NFL those couple
definitely-
years.
He would definitely have the sack record because
Yeah.
he's got officially, and it is official for him.
I think it's 98
he
sacks.
has 198, but that's 2 behind Bruce Smith.
Right. And he played, what was it? How long was the USFL around? I think he came in the second season of the
Reggie played 2 seasons for the Memphis Showboats, 1984 and 1985. But here's the thing: he also played in 1985 for the Eagles. So
Right.
really
Yeah, he-
only 1 year.
Okay, it's just
But
one
you
year.
would have to think,
He'd at least have 4 or 5 sacks.
considering
in 1 year.
that in his rookie year in 1985, already he had 13 sacks. You have to think he would have gotten at least 2.5 sacks in his rookie year in 1984.
Yes.
Yeah,
literally
pretty
never-
much.
He literally never posted below 5.5 sacks for his entire career, and that was in his very last year with Carolina in 2000. So
Yeah, that's the season
Yeah.
we don't like to think about as Reggie White fans.
I
Just
well,
because he was he was just old at
Well,
that point.
and he didn't play in 1999. His last year with the Packers was 98. What I mean, I didn't like Reggie White because, of course, he played for the Eagles. I loved him when he left the Eagles. I was celebrating that day when he signed with the Packers.
I wasn't.
Sorry.
I
The
was like,
Down
fuck
goes McMahon.
Morgan.
what always makes me sad in retrospect about him coming back to play that last year for the Panthers in 2000 is it prevented him from being alive for his Hall of Fame induction
Yeah.
Yes.
because it pushed his eligibility window
Yeah.
back. He died in 2004, and obviously he was a first year inductee in 2006, but he would have still, because he passed away late in 2004 and like just like the day after Christmas actually. Um, he would have still been alive in January when the induction ceremony had taken place if he had just retired after 1998. So
Yeah. And it's if you have a chance, watch his 30 for 30, the Minister of Defense. It's actually really good. His son is in most is his son talks about him in it, and his son looks like not exactly like Reggie, but looks a lot like him. And funny enough, his name is Jeremy. I was like, oh sweet, Reggie picked out a good name. So, but yeah, his the kind of man that Reggie White was outside of the NFL is, and we all know that Reggie White was a very humble, very uh, godly man. Um, and that's why he got that minister of defense. But he was never ordained as a minister at any point in time. You know, people just wanted him to come speak at churches and stuff and events, which sometimes backfired on him because of his views at that time. But it was
yeah,
interesting to hear.
he was anti-gay.
Yes, but it was very interesting because they did have a gentleman on there that was gay talking. And well, actually, two. I think there was two gentlemen, but it was interesting to hear them talk about the things that he said in his early, like when he was making those talks, and then talk about what they know about him as he was starting to go on his religious journey, and not just believe what people told him about the Bible, but starting to read the actual Hebrew version of the Bible before it was translated and, you know, people interpreted it the way they wanted to make it into books and stuff like that,
Yep.
on how that was actually written, the original version of the Bible through Hebrew and stuff like that. He actually went to and met with a gentleman that helped him learn how to read that writing and stuff like that, so he could read the original writings and everything like that. So he was evolving as a person to understand other people, and he, you know, he says in the very last interview, because it was the very last interview they had, I think it was from 2000, when he died in what, 2004, right? I think. It was an interview like a couple months before he passed away, and he was talking about it's not my job to judge. It's
He's in one of those.
that's what God will do. God will judge you. It is my job to live my life, and because that's what God gave us. He gave us all free will to be able to live our lives the way that we want to live them. It's not my job to judge you. So he was on that evolution of evolving and becoming a better person and accepting of people and their differences, and understanding that, you know, if God's going to judge you, he'll judge you at that time. My job is to be understanding of you and love you, and, you know, so very, very interesting how he started to change his views as he became more enlightened about.
Yeah,
So in the
so-
beginning, he
scriptures actually
pulled.
say.
In the beginning, he pulled an Ultimate Warrior. Got you.
Yes, in the beginning he pulled an Ultimate Warrior, and then
Clear
towards
and
the
don't
end-
make the world work.
Yeah,
Whatever the fuck that was, that maniac said. Yeah, so one would hope that his views would have evolved with the times.
That's
Yeah.
good. That's good. He did that.
yeah.
100%.
Yeah,
I did not-
because the worst thing you can be is stubborn, stuck in your ways, and like rigid in terms of, you know, this is something I've had issues with so many politicians over the last 25 to 30 years or so, when they said like, oh, he shows leadership because he stands by his principles and blah blah. I'm like, that's not always necessarily a good thing. I mean, you can stand by your principles, but if you have every single piece of tangible data telling you you're wrong about something and you still refuse to believe it because it's against your principles, then that doesn't really help, you
Yeah.
know.
I think it's important to have values like integrity, compassion, things like those kind of things, values that you stand by, but be open to other opinions. Like your opinion and things of that nature can't be the only opinion that you believe. You got to have values which you stand on because those will set you kind of on a path of, kind of making decisions. But,
So,
that whole principles is a very different thing.
yeah, they like to intertwine them shits. That's for sure. Well, gentlemen.
Yes, it is. We've been on for a long time. Have fun editing this one down, sir. No. To all our fans, yes, Joe is our editor, chief editor, and sound guy,
I'll
and
let the programs do that shit. I'm not gonna spend too much time manually editing that.
So,
Whoa.
real quick before we go, overall thoughts on the return of Saturday night's main event.
well, considering I did not watch it, I got a lot of text messages from you guys watching it. Um,
Always the
I will have to.
You can
I
always
watch
can
the
on
go back on
Peacock.
straggler,
Peacock and watch it though, so I will probably do that.
always the straggler.
Yes, I
Um,
am.
I had to admit, I have not watched Skeleton Crew yet either, so you can add me to your Strangler list.
I don't know if that's my problem. Like I'm seeing this and I'm like, I don't know if I want to watch it because I don't know anything about it, and it just looks like super kiddish. And I'm like,
It's
Star
set in
Wars
this.
and
It's set
kiddish
in this.
doesn't go together for me.
It's set in the same time frame as Mandalorian and Ahsoka and Book of Boba Fett. Um, it's not connected to any of those shows in any way as of yet. It is definitely more kind of kid geared because kids are the central characters. It's like
Yes.
Star
Your
Wars.
son will probably dig it.
It's like Star Wars does the Goonies in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm
Like
on
like
the
like
fence
like
about
19
actually watching it.
like 1980s Steven Spielberg vibes. You know, like E.T., the Goonies, some other thing.
Hmm.
So
So
it's been good so far through 3 episodes. I've enjoyed it. So
so for Saturday's main event, one, I was fine with the music choice. Two, I liked the production from beginning to end. Um,
just wish they had
three,
had the opening promos.
yeah. Three, love him or hate him, Jesse Ventura did a good job last night.
I loved listening to Jesse last night. I used to hate Ventura, but
Um, he
he
he would
he was great for what he was there to do.
yes, he did a really good job.
Was he dressed up?
Pretty
Yeah,
much.
he had a leather like a snake jacket on. They
He had
made
a leather
comments
jacket,
about that.
which he said was made out of Damien,
Yeah, Jake the Snake Roberts
and he
snake.
had the boas at one point. You know,
Yeah, when he in the beginning he had the feather bows on.
he doesn't
Um,
look like he's moving around too well these days, though.
yeah. But overall, the production was good. I was worried about them getting 5 matches in. And to be honest with you, listen, I'm not going to sit here and gripe about match quality. I'm just going to go for the entertainment value because that's really what this show is. There's some storyline to this. They had title matches, triple threats, so on and so on. Listen, I'm not going to say every single match was a 5 star because they weren't, but they were very good work matches for what they needed to get across for the storyline, and that was all I was worried about in regards to the show. The matches, there wasn't one match that seemed overly long. Um, it, I'm saying as it went longer than it should have.
Yeah,
You
nothing
know,
overstayed its welcome.
yeah, I mean, they started the third match before the second hour even started. So
They didn't have a match where you saw a finisher get hit and somebody kick out of it, and then the match went on for another 5 minutes.
yeah, so they pretty much they did a good job with the pace of the matches. Um, I
That's good.
enjoyed the show for what it was.
I mean,
Um,
I've seen
it's
some people say glorified house show, and in a lot of ways, yes.
Yeah, but that was
yeah,
always Saturday Night's main event. It was always a glorified house show.
Yeah. Because,
I,
well, when you come right down to it, Saturday night's main event was a televised house show because
was
you didn't see matches where like superstar versus superstar on like Wrestling Challenge and Superstars of Wrestling and the syndicated shows typically. You really didn't, at least not, when Saturday night's main event first started and everything. But the house shows had those cards because back then it was still more about a live event business than a television business for the most
Hmm.
part. It's not like that now, as we know. Um, My only complaint is they did have a chance, I thought, with Owens and Rhodes to do something shocking, and they didn't. So
Yeah,
it's still kind of like, where are we going? You know?
yeah, I was surprised by the finish. That was the only match. Like, I don't care if it was predictable of who was going to win the matches. That wasn't my concern for that for last night's show because they're going to be doing this 4 times a year, so once a quarter. So it's
They
great.
already got the next one scheduled. It's like the week before the Royal Rumble. So the only problem I have with that show being a week before the Royal Rumble, nothing significant in terms of like changes is going to happen on that show because the Rumble's the next week.
No, they're probably just going to use it for storyline purposes, which is
Yeah.
fine. Um,
I don't see if they're doing storylines and it was like KO attacking Cody after the bell should have been on camera and it wasn't.
yeah,
So
yeah. So I mean, that part should have been on camera, and then they could have cut to the end of the show and then put the footage online with Owens and Triple H confronting each other and all the pushing and shoving and shit. But overall, I was a bit surprised that how Cody, there wasn't no real shenanigans at the
Shenanigans. I call
in the match.
shenanigans.
Yeah, there was a couple ref bumps. Okay, that's fine, but I'm not putting that as pure shenanigans in regards to that. But I listen. I gave I still give the show an A minus. I enjoyed the show. The nostalgia part was good. The way they presented the matches, um, whatever. The commentating was good. The production, the music. Jesse Ventura killed it last night. I'm a McAfee fan. I know some people he's a bit much with his fanism and his markism, but he loves pro wrestling, so I get it. But I'm fine with it. McAfee was on last night. Jeremy, he came out. He commentated with Michael Cole. He did a good job. They do a thing where he breaks out the Pato Strader or the McAfee Strader, and he starts like going off on like Ventura's outfit and stuff like that. And that's where those two get into a little back and forth, which is really funny. He starts talking about Damien and all that stuff. So I enjoyed the show because it is a glorified house show. That's what it's meant to be.
Yeah, I like I said, I will probably go back and watch it sometime today when I have time. But it's interesting to hear your comments and know what was in the chat from as the event was going, as that show was going on. Um, and I not taking digs or shots at anybody, but I was not surprised to see um, who shall not be named comments in regards to the show. Those didn't surprise me at all. Um,
I think
but not everybody loves everything about every production. Like, I don't know, like sometimes I feel like as wrestling fans, we just need to sit back and say, is this entertaining? Not is the match a 5-star match? Like, am I entertained as a whole by what's happening in the ring, the commentary that's happening, the production of the show? Is it entertaining instead of just putting it on one aspect of the show? And I think wrestling fans in general sometimes do that. They look at just the match and they say, was the match good? What about everything else that goes into it? You know?
Yeah, it's one of those things where like I understand that, and everyone's perspective is a little bit different, and there's certain aspects where certain people in the wrestling business have kind of pushed it into that direction. But for me, I judge a weekly show different than I do a pay-per-view and then I do a special show like this. Like this isn't I'm not looking for like for a Saturday night's main event. It's not something that's on TV regularly. Pay-per-views are on once a month for the most part. TV shows every every week. So I just try to be realistic and judge how I'm looking for my wrestling shows in one way, what I'm looking for in my pay-per-views another way, and these are specialty shows. So I just try to judge it differently because you're not going to get I don't want it to be so, you know, cookie cutter in regards to it, which a lot of shows are and pay-per-views can't be these days. But listen, it was a fun show for me. I just try to
Yeah.
look at it at a different perspective a lot when it comes to certain shows and what type of shows and what they're trying to present and just go like that. I'm just trying to be more open-minded because there's a lot that goes into this.
Yeah. All right. Well, then I think that wraps it up. Would we say so? Yes. Good. All right. Excellent. So we
Yes,
want to
I
thank
have to
everybody.
go.
You have to go.
No, I do have to go pick up a grocery order. So
Oh, okay. All right. So we'll leave it there.
He's
We
a
thank you for watching.
bougie.
We appreciate it. I hope you enjoy my tree in the background. It's all nice and decorated.
yeah,
That was
So
You
we got
guys-
Star Wars in the background of
I got my
Pat. You got
read-
Joe's
I-
normal background. Boo, it's boring.
Yeah,
uh,
I know.
yeah. Unfortunately, my trees are in the other room,
Yes.
and they're not.
But we got your Star Wars wreath. That's
and
important.
they're not fully decorated yet. The only thing is I haven't gotten the cord plugged into the ornaments yet. I've been lazy about that part of it. So.
Oh, well,
Otherwise,
on
they
that.
would have been illuminated. You would have been able to see it. So
well, get on that. Stop being a lazy bastard.
I've had a lot going on.
Yes. So once again, we just thank you for watching. We appreciate your support of this show, even though it is kind of crazy and weird at times. We still appreciate it. And with that, we'll say we hope you finished with us today.